How's it going, everyone? And welcome to We Ain't Got Nothing episode of No Excuses on YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Ara Still.
Venerian.
And Vorcel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week.
Except there isn't any.
Yes, there really isn't. Other than I keep seeing the story about Seth Green's apes.
It's never not going to be funny.
I relish any time somebody's getting burned over NFTs. Like, you deserve everything you get.
Yeah, you
idiots.
really do.
My goodness me. That's like I generally consider Schadenfreude to be a vicious act, but this is just too dumb. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, there is a point at which you've just kind of crossed a threshold to being, like, sympathetic to...
Right, you did this to yourself.
Yeah. Honestly,
But,
what
yeah.
did you expect?
Yeah, but anyway, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com. Or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server and chat to other hosts and other listeners to the show, and you can do so by clicking on the link provided in the description underneath the show archive on YouTube.
You too can wind up on your government watch list.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, on this... Oh, no. On the stream today, I'm playing a bit of a game called Keplerth, which I don't know a whole lot about.
Cool, what now?
Keplerth. It's on stale. It's on stale, yes. It's part of the current Steam stale. I can't words. It is a... It looks like, honestly, it's like RimWorld, except you control a character in closer to something like Crashlands.
I
It
see.
does let you play as a mummy, so that's interesting.
Are you touting that as a significant plus, or what's your angle on this?
I mean, they actually have health regeneration, so that's actually pretty good. So you've got a whole bunch of races here: humans, elves, half-elves. Barbarian, for some reason, is a race of its own. I don't know why, because they're just like grumpy humans.
It's a race. That sounds a little bit racist, doesn't it?
So, yeah, I don't know anything about this game, and I'm just going to face check it. This could be interesting, and I'm probably...
So
gonna-
wait, you just bought this sight unseen for no reason?
Not completely sight unseen, but yeah, largely, because it was cheap.
That is often a bad metric for purchasing things.
Yeah. I'm going to play as a boar man, because they look like they're very tough to kill. And can I be pink? Can I be pink? Make it pink. I can't be pink! What heresy is this? Be red. Alright, we'll go with that. And it can be Bob the Boar Man. So, I was away last week, as everyone kind of noticed. Apparently everything was on fire again.
Yeah,
Well-
it does that.
Well, it wasn't technically on fire. It was just,
Well, it was metaphorically on fire. Definitely
Yeah.
metaphorically on fire. Like I can't form coherent thoughts and play video games at the same time in a two-person environment because there's only one other person to bounce off of. So if I need to step back and formulate my thoughts, I can, under the three-legged stool model, I can let the other two carry it while I work out what I want to say. In the two-person model, not so much.
Not so much. So that's fine. So I'm back. I'm not intending on running away again anytime. Maybe.
I've heard that promise before.
It's a lie! I'm running! Okay, so let's see. Apparently I'm in a hibernation pod, and everything else needs to be on fire. So this is a good start to a game. So let's dive straight in and talk about weeks. And honestly, yeah, the week I went out with it I was doing a trip across the Townsville for my sister's engagement party. So I can actually go and do something social for a change, which is not a common thing.
Being social. Ugh.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is grade A animation right here. There we go. Okay. So yeah, I did a little bit of shopping while over there. Didn't get to play a whole lot of game, unfortunately, while I was there. But I did buy myself a new keyboard, which is a Logitech G603. Hang on, I need to turn it upside down so I can actually look. 613. Which I didn't know was wireless until I actually got it home, so because they didn't label it properly.
Too bad it needed a sacrifice to work with your computer.
Yeah. Like, at the time, I was thinking... I was looking at mice because I could get a new MMO mouse, but my current mouse is fine. No. 10 minutes before the show, before we were scheduled to start, it died. So, it's... maybe it's going to behave itself. Oh, hang on. Maybe it's working? Oh, yeah, it's working now. What? So, apparently...
Maybe it just needed a siesta.
I guess it needed a siesta. I'm just going to turn it off now. No, actually, no, because this mouse is better than this cheap piece of rubbish I've been using. We'll see how long this lasts. It might be having a second wind and then it'll be dead.
A dying gasp.
Yes. Hello, happy robot. Please don't kill me. So yeah, the G613 keyboard. It's a very bare bones keyboard by and large. It's got the usual Logitech G buttons up the side, and it's got your media controls. But that's about it. But it is
the important thing is, does it have RGB?
No, it does not.
Because apparently that's the most important thing in peripherals these days.
Oh, and don't they love it?
One day they will invent an MMO mouse that doesn't have RGB, but does allow you to turn on a light on the numbers.
That would be nice.
Can you imagine how popular that product would be?
Oh, there it goes. It died again.
I do attempt to use the RGB on mine, so I've got it set up so that it switches profile depending on what window I have active, and it changes color. So when it's on the base desktop, all of the numbers are lit up white, but when I'm playing FF, for instance, they're all lit up red.
Yeah, I tried to set that up once, and I can never.
It's not useful, but it's the sort of function that you can sort of convince yourself is not useless, even though you know in your heart of hearts that it serves absolutely no purpose whatsoever.
Yeah, but it does look pretty. So yeah, because it's a wireless keyboard, they've gone easy on the RGB for a change, which I don't mind so much. I don't really want excessive RGB, although actually having a backlight on some of the keys would be nice. But yeah, it's a full mechanical keyboard and it's got a very satisfying click when you press a button. So that's all I really want in a keyboard. I don't like those I'm not even sure what they're called. The soft touch ones where it's the fully electronic keys.
I hate those.
They're just yucky.
Like, I need to feel something to know a button has been pushed.
I have never used what you're talking about apparently because I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like a flat surface practically that has keys on it.
Yeah.
The keys are only very slightly raised, but you cannot tell unless you're running your finger literally across the keyboard.
Yeah.
I've never seen such a thing before. Is that something people actually use?
Yeah.
Even though mechanical keyboards are all the rage.
The advantage of those ones is that they're very easy to clean. You just wipe them off and they're done.
College student normies love them these days.
Yeah.
Because they're a fashion icon or because it's useful?
Because it's easy to clean.
Because they come with Macs. No, because they come with Macs.
Oh, yes, they do.
I see.
Do. So, yeah, give me a mechanical keyboard any day, especially one with a nice, firm button press.
Yeah.
Not too firm, but yeah.
Something that gives me some kind of feedback that the button has been pressed.
I'm fairly sure my keyboard is old enough that it's still a membrane keyboard.
Yeah.
Or one that uses rubber membranes at least.
Those still exist, but they're not. They're only just the really cheap and nasty keyboards.
Well, this keyboard is like well over a decade old, so.
Actually, come to think of it, My parents' computer actually has one. It's an old Alienware keyboard, and it's a rubber membrane, which really says all you need to know about Alienware, I suppose.
Wow, Alienware's always been all brand and no substance.
Yeah. Like, they started off with actually having substance, but then they realized they weren't making any money out of that.
You mean they realized that they had been bought by Dell?
Also that. That's basically Dell completely. That's their whole modus operandi, really.
Dell has infamously made products that fall apart even harder than Razer.
Oh, yeah. Razer products at least
never
seem to be getting better most of the time.
My very first college laptop was a Dell. Never, ever again.
I swore that I would never buy a Dell when I heard about their power supply scandal. Well, it's not really a scandal. People treated it as scandalous, and it was, but basically they had released a line of PCs where if you tried to use non-Dell, like if you tried to put the pieces in a computer that wasn't powered by a Dell power supply, it would blow them up.
Oh, that's useful.
But that was way back in the late 90s, I think. But it's a little bit too predatory for my taste.
Yeah. And as Alienware goes, like, once Dell bought them, you were basically buying the same computer with a more expensive label on it.
Yeah.
Pass. Actually, that's kind of seems to be the way a lot of designer computer makers have gone. It's like they don't so much sell the completed computers anymore. They'll sell designer components
And RGB.
That's the same thing.
Well, the thing is that these days, that I think that the main reason that they're doing well is that it's for most people who want a bunch of computer components, including a GPU, but don't want a package deal. They will buy a package deal computer, like a boutique one, and then gut out the graphics card and whatever else they want, and then sell the rest. And oftentimes that can work out to be beneficial, financially speaking.
Yeah. Or the other times for it's either that or if people want to go the bespoke computer line, then essentially they build a form where you're still custom designing your computer. So you get to pick what individual parts you want and put them all in there.
Well, the thing is that when you buy a package deal that's fixed, you can usually get a graphics card cheaper that way, which is why it's so popular at the moment. When they've already got them assembled. And also, when you do the full custom build approach, the surcharge on them for them to assemble it is pretty oppressive. It's usually like a couple $100 at least.
Yeah, it's a bit silly, really.
Oh.
Yeah.
How do I equip stuff?
Generally, for people that are new to building PCs, I do recommend go get a pre-built box and build and upgrade from there route. Just because people will get all into it at first, and then they'll realize they don't have a clue what they're doing. You'll wind up like that video from what was that news outlet that put out the one that Goo gobbed the thermal paste on?
That actually, I found out a lot more about that in later on, because the guy kind of got with a few other YouTubers and said, "Okay, this is what happened." Apparently, he had some sort of executive type just behind the camera the entire time, who had no idea what he was doing, and just kind of pushing him to make things in a certain order.
I do not believe that. Like, it might be true, but I do not believe that on his say-so because of how much it cost him reputationally. Like, he would say anything at this point to try and make up that reputation loss.
He quits that job, like, very shortly afterwards.
Just
but there
Goo gob on that thermal paste.
But I mean, you can explain that in other ways as well. Like that they wanted to get rid of him because he was a burden on their reputation now, and they made things difficult for him, so he quit. Like, there's lots of alternative explanations, and I think that if he was going to quit over something like that, he would have quit when they had tried to force him to do something which was stupid and insane and would ruin his reputation, rather than after the fact.
Yeah. There's also like there's editing stuff as well. Apparently, that happened as well. They just kind of chopped the whole video together in the wrong order as well. But he's done other stuff since a few years later, and it's a lot better. But
that's
yeah,
not hard. You're not setting a very high bar there.
that bar was very low.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not that I have any particular hatred for the guy or anything. It's just that I just don't trust things that are said by people who are on the internet.
Who was it? Who was the company? Was it GameSpot?
I don't think so.
It was.
It was some explicitly tech branded place. That's why it was such a debacle. Is because they marketed themselves as knowing what they were talking about. So
Yeah, and just presented everything completely wrong.
Maybe he's just a thermal paste enthusiast.
I've seen those, and they are dangerous.
That was a joke, Fern.
I
To
know.
be fair, thermal paste doesn't come with any instructions on how much to use a lot of the time.
It really doesn't. You need to put enough on there so that it spreads evenly.
Honestly, I wish you could just buy them in sort of like a sticker format, the way they're supplied on most heat sinks that come with them pre-applied,
Yeah.
rather than having to muck around with the goop. Because I mean, you're never really able to be sure that you've done a good job on the goop, in my opinion. I mean, I've used the goop before, but it's like, well, what if there's an air bubble in there and I didn't notice?
Well, if your computer starts crashing for seemingly no reason, then you've probably made a mess of it.
I mean,
But if your computer starts crashing, then that's fine, because then you know there's something wrong and that your computer is responding by shutting itself down automatically. It's usually not a crash. It's usually the computer senses that the temperature is going out of whack and shuts down in an emergency shutdown. That's actually fine. The problem is when it's slightly botched and it just goes on and ruins your components over time.
Yeah.
yeah. Though that guy did just goo gob it on there.
Well, I'm not saying that that there's any circumstance in which he was doing was a good idea. I'm just saying that it is more of an art than a science to begin with.
Yeah. So anyway, where was I now? So yeah, what else did I actually do? Okay, I suppose we've got one bit of news which I will talk about, and that is Blizzard's mobile game, the WoW one.
I don't know why you subject yourself to these things.
For science and for content. So, yeah. Arc like Rumble. It's, well, you know how I said it was Clash Royale? Kind of tongue-in-cheek at the time? I take it back. There's nothing tongue-in-cheek about it. It is Clash Royale.
I don't think anybody was saying it tongue-in-cheek except for you. Everybody was expecting them to just copy Clash Royale.
And that they did. So, if you've played Clash Royale, you've played Arc like Rumble. There's... like, they've got some nice little flares on there. The units all have little bits of personality and all of that. They make noises and they have fun animations. The bosses, or each map kind of has a bit more of a unique layout than Clash Royale. Like, they'll have multiple different lanes you can send your units up and things like that. But by and large, that's the only real difference. There's a big single-player campaign which basically involves traveling across Azeroth until eventually you catch up with excessively smug Onyxia. And then after that, I don't know.
Well, to be fair, excessively smug was Onyxia's original personality.
Yes, it was. So
Like,
they've at least captured that nicely.
She was supposed to be sort of like the big backroom manipulator, controlling all the events and so on. And all of that story, I guess, has been lost now. It just basically doesn't exist anymore, does it?
The Onyxia storyline? No, I don't think it does. I think it went with Cataclysm, didn't it?
Yeah, you can't see any of that because, you know, Onyxia's like, by Cataclysm, Onyxia's like literally a zombie, right?
Yeah, she's well and truly dead by that point, and well, by the end of Cataclysm, she was dead again.
Re-dead.
So, yeah, that's all gone. So that's honestly all I can really say about it. It's just, like, they made this big deal actually in the press release, I suppose. They explained it, saying like, you at the start of the game you're supposed to be able to pick a faction, and that determines your starting deck. But no, you don't. You just get your everyone gets the same loadout at the start.
Is that just a beta thing, or?
Don't know at this point. It could be, it could not be. As I can tell, each unit does belong to one of the factions. I think the factions were Alliance, Horde, Undead, Beast, and Elemental. But there seems to be absolutely no interplay between them. It's just, yeah, category, I guess. Maybe some of the leader units you can get will interact with them in some way, but I haven't seen anything like that yet. And I probably won't. Thankfully,
That good, huh?
yeah. Now the game is in beta, and of course the cash shop is fully up and running because, of course, it is. It's not gacha, at least, which I thought it would be. Instead,
I think they would have faced a rebellion if they'd gone actually full out gacha.
yeah. Instead, you've got a rotating cash shop, so it'll give you a choice of 3 units you can buy, and you get to buy 1, and then it locks you out of the shop. From what I can tell, until the next cycle. And each unit seems to cost like $3. Or you can unlock them in-game by earning in-game gold and going to a grid. And this seems like a needlessly complicated way of doing things. So you've got a 3x3 grid, which will have a number of units on it and some free spaces. Units tend to cost the same. Units and spells. When you buy a unit on the grid, it will flip every tile in the row and the column. Which means if there's another unit you wanted on the grid in either the same row or column as the unit you just bought, it's gone. You got to wait for that to rotate around again. That said, every now and again a tile will flip up, it'll have a gem on it, and if you buy a unit that causes that tile to flip, then it gets bonus experience, which is meh. Which is another actual weird thing. Units, whenever you complete a match, it seems like it's random as to which unit gets the experience. Instead of it being just across the board.
That's bizarre.
Very. And yeah. So that's kind of weird, and I don't really like it all that much. So yeah. Beyond that, I mean, it's Clash Royale. That's it.
Well, their big brag is that there's like raids and PvE co-op and stuff like that.
In order to get to those, you need to get to level 20 or 20 skull, level 20, whatever. Which means inevitably, I think you need to play it through enough of what they are loosely calling the story, in order to fight Anixia. And once you beat her, then you can get into raids and dungeons. Based on the map, I think you were looking at things like Zul'Gurub, Blackrock Mountain, or probably Molten Core, actually. Nixie is kind of her own thing. I would be surprised if one of them is Caverns of Time or Gadget Zand as a dungeon. So, because yeah, the whole thing is set on a loose map of Azeroth, the 2 main continents at this point. And there's a few spots which you can click on and it will just say there is a dungeon here or there's a raid here, and go away because you're too puny to access it or whatever.
Be gone, peasant.
Be gone!
Go purchase more in the cash shop to rank up faster.
Yeah. So I've played enough of it to get through to Duskwood. So you start off in Elwyn Forest, you go down through Westfall and then into Duskwood. The first boss you properly fight is Edwin Van Cleef, but he's just got his whole ship. So kind of up in the top corner of the map is his ship. You get your units up there and you smash it. But
it's hardly polite.
Yeah. The fact that he's got artillery going off all over the place does add a nice, neat flair to the game. So there is some cool mechanics in there, but once you hit Duskwood, it seems like the difficulty takes a sudden spike upwards, which means inevitably you need to go back and either grind or pay money, you pleb. So yeah. It might be that I just haven't hit on the winning strategy yet based on the units I've got, or I just don't have the right unit, but yeah.
Well, I've heard that the devs have said that they did go out of their way to make it really challenging because they didn't want some sort of pushover toy.
Which means they want you to spend money to actually progress.
Well, I mean, are you actually able to see how that works out, like what it is that how you spend money and what their monetization strategy is?
At this moment, it just seems like you. Hang on, give me my. Let me reach over and grab it, and I will tell you. Let's pause this game. Sorry, there's not going to be anything to look at on the screen for a little bit. Let me see. Open up Arc Like Rumble. Boop. Also, it can only be paid in portrait mode, and I hate that.
Well, Clash Royale was the same way because
Clash Royale was the same, but yeah, there's no.
I thought it was like, well, this is basically a lane based gameplay, right? It makes sense for it to be vertical.
Yeah, but you
because of the map layout, it has to be that way.
Yeah, but you can zoom and pan around as much as you like, so. Alright, let me see. Once it finishes loading. Also, I felt slightly dirty reactivating my Battle.net account for the first time in a long time.
And rightly so.
Yes.
You filthy, filthy boy.
Filthy, filthy, filthy. Load faster! Oh, my tablet just went to sleep. Why? Why would it let the tablet go to sleep? Okay, there we go. So, go into the store. Their monetization is... You can just go and buy units. They're about $3 each, and that gives you your choice of one of 3. And they come out at actually a fairly high level. Based on... Let me see. My units are all level 3 at the moment. They're coming out at level 6. So my highest level unit at the moment is level 4. And it's not one on my front line. So there's an advantage already just for buying. They come out, you're getting them at a slightly higher level. Let me see. And that seems to be some sort of bundle deal. Also, you can buy gold, which allows you to use the grid system, or to buy XP tomes, which you can just pump straight into a unit to level it up. And there it is, right there. I'm also going to assume at this point, let me see, raids not yet implemented, dungeons, enter a 3-map gauntlet with single army and powerful relics, earn helmets, upgrade your army. Assuming that's Valor. Okay, I'm assuming at this point that raids and possibly dungeons as well are going to have some sort of restricting mechanic attached to them as well. Like, you'll only be able to go into so many dungeons per week or per day, unless you pay money.
I see. Well, it's the same as most mobile stuff, like Genshin and...
So there's nothing... There's nothing really here that's new at all. Honestly, it's all stuff we've seen before. So, yeah. Boy, creative chickens. Except I don't want to do that because the chickens are rubbish.
Do you just literally turn chickens loose on your battlefield?
Yes, that's exactly what you do.
It doesn't seem like sound military strategy to me. I don't know. I'm not much of a strategist, but...
Yeah, they can bring down a range unit fairly easily, but that's about the extent of what they do. Alright, so that's that. It's just like, okay, great, you've made a mobile game, but you didn't exactly make a new one.
Well, I mean, I just got to build their portfolio and try and get that sweet, sweet mobile money. So, what do you think of its like commercial prospects?
I mean, it is going to sell. Well, not sell. It's going to draw a few people in, partly because it's just Warcraft, and people will still invest in Warcraft because it's just Warcraft. That isn't going to last a whole lot longer, honestly. I think the way we're going, but it's still going to draw a few people in. The aesthetic it's kind of like that very cartoony, Pixar-y style they've been using for the Hearthstone cutscenes. So it's got a little bit of charm there, and that might draw a few people in. But unless I think they differentiate themselves enough from Clash Royale, people are going to drift away from it rather quickly. Because it's nothing we haven't seen before.
Well, I mean, I presume that they're marketing towards, like, Warcraft faithful, though.
Oh, yeah.
Who really want to play Warcraft, the mobile game, in addition to playing Warcraft, the RTS, and Warcraft, the MMO. Although, apparently, they don't care that much about Warcraft, the RTS, given their treatment recently of the IP.
They've completely abandoned Reforged at this point.
Well, I mean, what can you really do for it at this point?
Take it out behind the shed and put a mercy bullet in its head.
That game got its life ended during its first tournament when the top players kept disconnecting.
Yeah. And that was before the thing, I think, actually officially released, if I recall.
Yeah. It was right at launch or right after it, and as soon as that happened, it's just like, you can't save this.
You can't save this. And what's worse is it wasn't just that Warcraft 3 Reforged was bad, it's that you can't go back and play the original Warcraft 3 anymore.
Yeah, they basically removed it from existence, right?
Yeah, like if the original plan was you're supposed to be able to flip between the two and move the save game across if you wanted to. But no. Either they changed their minds about that later on or they just straight up lied. I'm not sure which yet. What else? What else? I haven't really done a whole lot else for my week, unfortunately. Because, yeah, the drive to Townsville, it is long and it is boring. It is at least green, though, for a change, which is a nice difference.
Ooh, getting to see green things.
Getting to see green things. Alright, geez, I haven't even actually been able to watch too much in the way of anime, because my local friendly branch of Honest Bob's is not updating on the anime I have watched. Oh, I have watched Don't Hurt Me, My Healer, though. I'm up to date on that one, and what can you even say about Carla?
I have difficulty working out what to say about Carla, as you probably figured out when I was sort of grasping at straws for how to describe her when I first introduced the show, introduced that anime on the show. But she's certainly something special.
Something special is right. Like Alvin is like he's not a very good adventurer, which on its own is bad enough.
Well, you say that, but I mean everybody's got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, he's only a rookie. But a lot of the time, it just seems like they start to fight a monster or they encounter a monster, and then inevitably just devolve into pointless arguments, and the monster just tends to give up.
Monster always is an onlooker to the actual conflict taking place.
Before they're half the time just drawn into whatever nonsense they're currently carrying on about. Like that, in the first episode, that poor bear just gets dragged in. All she wanted to do was fight an adventurer and go home. But no. So, it is just funny for all sorts of reasons. It's just... I don't even know how to describe this Carla character, because she's just... What even planet is she from?
Like, I don't know, like, I find myself liking her even though she's horrible.
She's absolutely abominable, yes.
I'm not quite sure why I find her such an enchanting character. Probably because she's so guilelessly horrible. Like, she's definitely horrible, but she doesn't actually want to be mean. She's just mean by nature.
Yes. She can't help herself. She just... Even when she's trying to do something nice, she'll inevitably do something horrible. Usually to Alvin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know... Well, I don't know what she's a priestess of, but she seems to be a priestess sort of the way Ina is a priestess rather than the way your conventional healer is a priestess. Because that god has tentacles.
I do get a lot of enjoyment, though, out of her attempts to wink.
Some people just can't.
Some people can't, and some people really shouldn't. And in her case...
Definitely the latter.
Definitely the latter. What she does is more cursed than anything else. How do I use this? Okay, the game's not telling me. So, yeah, that's a very enjoyable series. I'm glad you did recommend that, because the title, Don't Hurt Me, My Healer, just gave me entirely the wrong impression of what the show would actually be.
Yeah, because it's a horrid mistranslation.
Yeah. My healer is a pain in the ass is a better translation.
By the way, Fern, if you were intending to show anything on the stream, you've only been showing the show logo the entire stream.
That is not what that should be showing. Let me fix that. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now we're playing a pigman punching trees. And it's always punching trees.
It sounds
So-
like you're describing Minecraft.
I mean, it's not just Minecraft anymore. Every survival game now involves punching trees. Even when you really, really shouldn't. So that's my week. I need to go buy a new mouse. Unfortunately, yeah. MMO mice are nowhere near as widely available as they used to be.
Well, the bloom has fallen off that flower now. There's not everybody is
Yeah.
producing an MMO, and like the last big MMO to come out, that not counting like Endwalker, was probably Lost Ark, which is not a 12-button format.
No, and you can play that with a controller, and probably should actually.
If they will ever let you rebind the keys, yeah. But
Yeah, if
Big if.
that's a big if. So yeah, I'm gonna see what I can find. Hopefully, I can find something worthwhile. But currently, the options are the Razer Nagas with their questionable faceplates, the Logitech G600, or whatever the Corsair one's called, the Scimitar.
Well, I've got the Razer Naga X that doesn't have interchangeable faceplates, so
Yeah, but I can't seem to find those anywhere.
I had to look around. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they just really want to shill their plate changing tech. But
Tech, is that
yeah,
what we're calling that now?
Could you not hear the quotes?
Yeah, I certainly
But,
could. They clanked into place. Let me
But
see. Razer Naga X. Oh, hang on. Here we go. It's on Amazon. But not free shipping. Why?
I don't know. It seems like a solid piece of kit, but
Oh, that's the wired one.
I still haven't had it that long, so it could still fail on me yet. Yeah, mine's wired. I don't know if there's a wireless one. It's like I don't think
No.
wireless is dubious enough when it's not being made by Razer. So
Yeah. No, it looks like the only wireless one is the Naga Pro, and that's got the questionable faceplates. It does have a charging station though.
why is there an eBay style lot being recommended to me for Yu-Gi-Oh cards on Amazon?
I don't know.
How did that even make it into Amazon's listings?
That's actually a very common question.
Listed by unknown.
Oh, that's not at all suspicious.
The last thing I bought on here was some replacement M8 bolts.
Okay.
How does that translate into a lot for Yu-Gi-Oh cards? Somebody's watching me.
Somebody is watching you, definitely. They know what you like. And that's children's card games. Anyway, Vol, what have you been up to?
what have I been up to? Not a great deal this week. Well, yes and no, not a great deal. I didn't play much in the way of video games, but that's because my computer was out of action for a large chunk of the week, because piecemeal I have built my new PC now. Well, mostly new PC. So I have assembled a new device. I always feel a little bit like, am I doing the right thing here? Because I never buy a top-of-the-line PC, but, you know, they cost money, like a lot of money. So
Yeah.
I've got a 12th generation Core i5, which, from what I can tell, is pretty damn good price performance ratio, because it's only about 300 New Zealand dollars for that core. And to step it up to sort of like the next class of performance, you're looking at moving from the $300 range to the $500 range. There's a big jump. So there's sort of, I kind of like when that's the case though, because it makes the decision quite easy, because everything's in clearly defined classes.
Mm.
So it's not the budget class, but it's also not the performance class. It's the
got
normie class.
The normal class, the one in the middle.
Yeah. So I reused the RAM that I got because as I may have mentioned, my computer started setting fire to RAM sticks, my old PC. So I replaced it and it set fire to those as well. But since the mode of failure was different, I couldn't be sure that it was my computer's fault, so I just returned them and they tested them and decided that it was worthy of a replacement. So they sent me new ones and I decided, you know what, I'm not going to risk these. I'll just build a new PC around them. So They are AMD RAM sticks, but from what I can tell, that doesn't mean anything. It's just that apparently the memory timings, the performance of particular memory timings on AMD motherboards and CPU combos are more spotty than on Intel ones. So there are certain timings that perform well compared to others, which is not the case for Intel ones. So when you buy RAM that is branded or advertised as being for an AMD CPU or a Ryzen CPU, it's because there are particular timings that apparently work better. But you can still use them just as well on an Intel setup. So if you see AMD ones on special and you're in the market for RAM and it's only AMD ones that are on special, you can just as easily buy them if your computer's running an Intel chip.
Yeah.
That's been the outcome of my research anyway. And it seems to be working all right, but something that has made me paranoid about whether it is working all right is Ari's story about him like literally using his computer for years with the RAM sticks installed improperly.
Yes.
And it's like, he didn't know. How would I know? Like, how did you even find out?
Just, I was curious, so I went digging around to see what type of RAM sticks I had. And it wasn't showing up. It wasn't showing me the information I wanted in Task Manager. And so I what type of sticks do I have? And I went digging and I dug around. I forget what I eventually found them under, and it's only reading 16 gigabytes here. That's not right. But it's reading 32 in my Task Manager. Let's open the case up. Oh, I didn't click in 2 of them all the way.
Yeah.
Because you got to push really hard.
You got to be firm with a lot of them.
Yeah, the thing is, this one sort of, this new motherboard kind of blindsided me. I went with an Asus one because normally I buy Gigabyte motherboards. Like, that's been my habit for many, many years. Back when Gigabyte was the only company that made decent motherboards. But this time I went with an Asus one because the Gigabyte ones were all sort of like $400 plus, unless you wanted to go for a micro ATX which is really feature sparse. So I went with an Asus one instead, and they've got really weird DIMM slots. Like, they don't have I don't know, maybe this is common to people, but since I've only used Gigabyte motherboards, I'm not familiar with this, but they only have a retaining lever on one end.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about before.
Of the DIMM. Whereas Gigabyte ones have a retaining level on both ends. So you press both to pop the stick out, and you push down on the stick to click both in. And they work automatically like that.
Yeah, this was why I didn't put enough force when I put them in initially.
Yeah, because you can't quite tell for surezies whether you've got both sides in, because they're not identical the way they are on a Gigabyte motherboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of this has come together to make me extremely paranoid. But yeah. Naturally, because this is the current year, the RAM sticks glow.
Because of course they do.
In
Everything's got
rainbow
glow.
colours. And I don't know why. I don't know why you would want this. At any rate, so I bought a new case as well, Corsair case, with no case window. So I can't see the glow at all unless I look in through the grill in the back where the fan is to try and see them. Then I can see that actually inside they're glowing away there, wasting my power for no reason. But yeah, so them's in there as well. I was a little bit chagrined that you can't get very many motherboards nowadays unless you go really upmarket that have the full set of analog outs for surround sound. You have to put your line in and your microphone jack into surround mode in order to plug in the 3 plugs. Yep. Which is fine because everybody uses a USB mic these days, and line in on motherboards, my experience with it is that it is very unreliable and generates a lot of electrical static. It's just not a reliable format to analog into a PC. It's best to keep out separate lines outside your PC if possible. You don't want to feed them through. Yeah, I installed 2 1TB M2 drives. One of both Samsung ones, but one of them is very much faster than the other one, and that one I'll put in the first slot, the one that's run by the CPU. and installed the OS in my main games on there. And the other one's going to be storage for other stuff. My old computer is going to basically be an archival device, so I'm not carrying very much data over there. If I want something, then I'll just fire up that old computer and get it off, rather than keeping everything on my current one. So I don't have a lot of moving parts in this new computer, since both of the hard drives are solid state. And it's running blisteringly fast as a result. So I'm quite happy with that, now that I have 2 RAM channels, solid state memory, and a powerful CPU to drive everything. So everything's running quite smoothly now, quite quickly. The fly in the ointment, of course, is that I'm keeping the same graphics card. So I am being completely bracketed by the graphics card alone. But it's just a matter of me, waiting around for a sale, and maybe the mid-year sales will come along and I'll see a decent price on a graphics card. But it's very hard for me to decide what graphics card to buy, because the pricing scale is so aggressive. At the low end, at the really low end, Nvidia trumps everything. Like their low end cards are really good compared to AMD's. But in the mid range, which is where I normally have to buy, your, by analogy, 1060, 2060 range. Well, I guess it's 3060 now. Are we up to 3060? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that range is sort of like, AMD ones perform slightly worse than, very slightly, not a huge amount. We're talking a handful of frames, like 2 or 3 frames at most, worse than their counterparts for Nvidia, but they also cost $200 less. So I think that's probably fine.
I will accept that quite happily.
Yeah, so if I was going to buy one in the short term, it would probably be an AMD. I don't know what they're up to, probably like 6600. I don't know their naming schemes. Graphics card naming schemes, man.
Yeah.
What even? But yeah. So that's the sort of the middle of the range where I normally buy, because then you go up to the sort of like the 3080, 6800 range, and the 3090, 6900. Actually, the AMD recently released a 6950, which means that in that class they are now exactly even with Nvidia. Which only goes to show what I have always told people when they ask me about which they should go with, is that it's much of a muchness. Go with whichever one you like the drivers of better, basically. But I've used AMD ones for years, even when people stridently advised me not to. So
typically, I find
hasn't given me any problems.
Yeah, I find you get more bang for your buck with AMD, but Nvidia has much better support.
Yeah, although I don't know how much of that's true, because we're old, right? And in the early 2000s, AMD drivers were absolute garbage.
Yes.
They barely worked, and you had to update them every 5 minutes to keep them working once they were. But that's just really not the case anymore, has been my experience. Yeah. Like, I've got all of those memories from back in the day when I was running my Radeon 9200.
Yeah. Now, the support I'm referring to is actually when things go wrong. Their customer service is absolute dogs.
I try and avoid dealing with that sort of return to base. I tend to try and buy from a place that will do the intermediary work for me, so that I don't ever have to come into contact with the people that make the product, if at all possible. But yeah, I don't know. I would like to replace my graphics card, if only to stop my computer pestering me about how I fail minimum requirements for games that I'm manifestly playing. Because my current card is an R9 380, which is like the 2015 equivalent of a 1060.
Yep. Yeah, not good.
It's not good, but it's also not bad. Like, for my purposes, it does most things. It's just like, for a 10-year-old game like Final Fantasy 14, it's still creaking along at maybe 39 frames per second at best, sort of thing.
Thankfully, the power arm race kind of ended maybe 5 years ago. So it's not a huge deal if your card's a bit older now. Yeah,
they're not really pushing it like all of the squabbling happens at the top end where people care about ray tracing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that there are many gamers who actually genuinely in their heart of hearts care that much about ray tracing.
There's really not.
like the people that play the latest Battlefield purely because of the graphics, and I know that those people exist because I flattered with one of them once, where the only thing he cared about was the graphics. He was a person who built a computer to play Crysis.
Oh, he's insane.
Yes.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah, he's also the flatmate that had waste oil from his car to get rid of, so he poured it onto the driveway and set fire to it.
Why? Why? I hate everything about this guy. That poor driveway.
His computer to play Crysis, it had a water block, but this was the year Crysis came out. When was that? Long time ago. It was a long time ago, and water cooling was not mainstream.
2006, I think.
It was not mainstream by any stretch of the imagination. So he had the water block, but
Here it is, 2007.
He salvaged a fuel pump out of a car and connected a garden hose to his water block, which went out of his computer, down through a hole in the skirting under the house, and outside to a big 40-gallon rubbish bin filled with water. And then
What?
What?
Well, it's really freaking cold here in New Zealand. So his water reservoir was this enormous drum filled with really cold water out in the Christchurch winter that was piped under the house through a garden hose into his computer.
I mean, it would work, but...
It did work, and it worked really well. However, because he was able to actually run Crysis.
But it is the most scuffed setup I've probably ever heard of.
It was an unbelievably scuffed setup, just like everything else he did in life. It was unbelievably scuffed.
I guess I know how he's going to die then. He's probably going to electrocute himself or something.
I have no idea what he's doing now. Last I heard from him, he moved to Perth.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Does it? I'll have to take your word for that. I don't know what Perth is like, but yeah. What was I talking about?
Aside from unbelievably scuffed...
Oh, right, graphics. So yeah, I do know people who, for them, gaming is all about the swanky graphics. But I don't think that that's actually very many people, so I think that top-end fight is probably more of a dick-waving contest for the engineers and the respective companies than anything else.
Yeah, that used to be a very big market for gamers like 5-10 years ago, but thankfully people are realizing that graphics aren't everything.
Well, I don't think it's that, actually. I think it's two main factors. Number one, people are starting to realize that the biggest driving factors behind space consumption, behind price, and behind development cycle length is excessive amounts of graphic crap.
Yes.
And the other thing that they're realizing is that there is an upper limit to what you want in terms of graphical fidelity.
Yeah.
Beyond a certain point, it's not that helpful because all of that extra grunt is going to making your monitor real estate bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Like 4K is like old hat now. Everybody's like, man, the 8K, the 8K. Like you literally have to sit like 6 inches from your monitor in order to see 8K. The difference between 8K and 4K.
It doesn't make that big of a difference.
Who has an 8K display?
People with more money than sense.
I've seen a few of them around, but only in shops.
Yeah, they are there. But I went out of my way when I bought my new monitor to get a 1080p only one because it was hundreds of dollars cheaper than a 4K one in the same size.
Yeah.
So I've got this really sweet 31.5-inch curved monitor. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it.
Yeah.
And
At that
it cost
size,
me like $480 or something.
Yeah. See, at that size, 4K would be starting to be noticeable.
Yeah, it would be, but it would also cost me like $600 or $700.
Yes.
I was like, you know what? I don't think I actually need that because, like, my eyes have been repaired by surgery 3 times. So while my vision is now very good, I don't really have much confidence in my ability to retain it. I'm getting on in the years, and my eyesight's not going to stay reasonable forever. So I don't really care that much, to be honest. For my
Yeah.
purposes, given the types of games that I like to play, the extra graphical fidelity for 4K or 8K is just not that meaningful to me.
Yeah.
At most, I don't think I'll ever go above 1440. It's already hard for me to tell the difference between 1440 and 1080. And
Like, I've used this weak graphics card for a long time, so when it comes to sort of my internal logic, the choice between 1080p with all the trimmings and going up a few notches in resolution and having to scale back, like, it's not even a decision. Like, I don't want the extra resolution if I can have all of the anti-aliasing and all of the shading and all of the lighting and all of the occlusion and all of the this, that, and the other. Like, I would just stick with 1080p because 1080p is just fine.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, if I had a kind of a home theater setup that really kind of lent on making everything as immersive as possible, then I'd probably look at 8K.
Well, a home theater setup, though, you sit far away from your
Yeah.
television, and there's actually been studies done on the distance required from your television to see the difference. Like, I've seen graphs on it. I'd have to dig them out. I don't know where they are. But the difference requires you to be very, very close to the television. And if you've got a lounge of moderate size that you've got your home theater system set up in, you probably can't see 8K because your lounge will not be big enough.
Yeah, so it's
Like,
not,
8K is meaningful for cinema screens.
yeah, so it's not a huge, big deal, honestly.
Yeah,
So-
if I can find it. I can't find it though. It was a really good graph I saw a while back that explained about the sort of there's a graph which has a line. It has like regions on the graph, and in this region where you're at this distance, this resolution is reasonable, and so on and so forth. But yeah, there is math behind it. Studies have been done on it, and the conclusion, generally speaking, is that most people are not even set up to get the benefit of 4K, let alone 8K. Almost nobody can set up to get 8K unless they have the room to build a home theater for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's how demanding it is. But yeah, so I'm not concerned about that sort of thing. That's why I look at the mid-range these days. Looking at the mid-range for buying a new graphics card is definitely the better way to go. Number one, because it's cheaper and the prices are highly inflated. But number two, because 1080p gaming is the only thing I'm interested in looking at. I don't really want to go higher than that because my monitor won't support it. I'm just not. I'd have to scale down, and there are some people who swear by that, by rendering 4K and scaling down to 1080.
Yep.
But I don't really care, to be quite honest. I'm not going to play Battlefield. I'm just not. I'm not going to play COD. I'm not going to play Forza Horizon or whatever the latest driving a car around the countryside game that uses all the graphical dingalings is. So, yeah, I would like to replace my graphics card, but I'm just not in any big hurry to do so. We'll see if the end of financial year coughs something up other than the government's new terrible budget, which is going to ruin us.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic, because, yeah, I feel like they'd put Bill Shorten in charge of our economy. But, yeah.
Yeah.
What else? So, assembly process was relatively straightforward, although I'm always like deeply, deeply paranoid whenever I put together a PC that, you know, anything could go wrong. But I turned it on and then realized I didn't have installation media for Windows. So I went and found my laptop and I plugged it in and it wouldn't turn on because the battery had flattened itself. So I had to charge that for a while. Then I created installation media, installed Windows, and then Windows went behind my back and tried to transform itself dynamically into Windows 11.
Yeah, do not let it do that.
I had to forestall that, but it seemed really keen on the prospect. Didn't ask my permission at all. It did ask my permission. It gave me the opportunity to stop it, thank goodness. But it didn't suppose for a moment that I would have any objection.
Which would have been very alarming if that happened at stupid o'clock in the morning when you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, that would just be a nightmare if I just turned it on my computer in the morning and found that it was Windows 11, because I had a funny idea that that's what it had planned for my life.
That sort of thing happened with Windows 10, so it might yet happen.
Yeah. Well, at least, like, I did upgrade to Windows 10 on purpose because I was on Windows 8. So,
Yeah, so that's an understandable jump.
yeah, my main PC was on Windows 7, and I updated to Windows 10 on purpose on that one, but my laptop was on Windows 8. And it's like, Windows 8, for those who didn't use it, Windows 8 was a freaking trash fire.
It was bad.
But, yeah, so everything seems to be more or less working now. It's complaining about my system specs, but it's always going to do that. Everything runs buttery smooth, except for things that involve graphical demand, like lots of people in a capital city in Final Fantasy. Does not run buttery smooth then. But the load times are a lot better. I used to actually be able to go away and do something while I waited for Final Fantasy to load another zone. And thankfully, that's not the case anymore. Yeah. So, good times. Next project is to get me another microphone. I want to go not upmarket like the way people spend hundreds of dollars on a microphone, but my microphone, when it was new, only cost $100 or so. Maybe a little bit less than that. And I mainly got the one I did because it was compact and folded up easily, which is something I needed when I kept changing flats.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I have plenty of space on my own and I'm not in a hurry to move anywhere, I can look at a better one. And now that I've got this this boom arm as well, which I didn't have when I bought this mic originally. This mic's not really that well designed for attaching to a boom, so I'll get one which has a shock mount and so on and so forth. This time round, I don't know what the sound quality will be like, since my opinion is that anything anybody online says about sound quality is entirely, like, they might as well be talking about their taste in fashion.
For the most part, yeah. Like, there is a certain degree of objectivity in that. Objectivity.
Yeah, but what people look for in... When I say quality, I don't mean good or bad. I mean, like, the qualities that it has. Like, how warm is it? How harsh is it? How precise is it? How soft is it? How bassy is it? Like...
Yeah.
Those attributes of it, all of those, whether they're good or bad, is entirely down to taste, or if you're a professional, it'll be down to the particular application.
Yep. In some cases, you're just making things up.
I just universally want a mic that will make people not complain about the sound of my voice on it, and that's all. Like, I can't hear what I sound like. I never go back and listen to these podcasts if I can help it.
Nobody does.
Nobody likes the sound of their own voice.
I've yet to meet anyone who does.
Yeah, well, it's because it sounds uncanny. It always sounds uncanny to people because you can't hear what your voice sounds like when you don't have your voice resonating through your own bones. So
yes.
You can't. It doesn't sound like yours when you hear a recording. Yeah, I just want to get sufficiently good sound quality and sufficient attributes to the way I sound over the microphone, such that people are not finding it off-putting, and that it will service me in a decent pickup pattern for a long time. So that's the next immediate project, because it's easier to solve than the video cards are expensive problem, which will have to solve itself. Yeah. Other things from during the week. The Vegas rerun on FGO has started, which is a ridiculously goofy story, but I haven't made much progress in it because I've been distracted by the computer issues. But since I rolled to get Lambda-Rillis to NP3 last time, I have some CEs left over from the last attempt at this event, so the farming process at least should be a bit faster. And it's an interesting event that gives you a lot of opportunity to obtain huge amounts of QP and get yourself out of QP hell for a few months. The release of servant coins was completely botched. They scuffed it up badly. I'm not quite sure how or why, but they had to take the thing down for maintenance again a couple of days later because nobody got the coins they were entitled to for their SSRs.
Okay.
Which is the most important, since those are the hardest coins to get, because you can only get them when you get bond ranks up and when you summon one. So yeah, I haven't made much use of it because the system came out a year later in Japan than it did for us. They brought it in a year early for us, so that means that a lot of skills cost upgrade items that we don't really have access to yet. They're inserting some of the missing ones into events, but that's not really enough to cover it, to be honest, since you can't farm them. So poor Kiyohime has stuck at sort of like rank 8 or rank 6 or something on her append skill that I chose to upgrade. Since my waifu is at is a 3-star, it means that I don't have the problem of limited banners to try and get additional coins for her. But on the other hand, you get a dismal amount of coins every time you summon her. So it's going to take a while for me to get her all nicely ranked up. But it was always supposed to be a long-term project anyway. On the other hand, I was able to get Martha Summer up to rank 10 on her NP pre-charge ability instantly, meaning that she can NP turn 1 by herself if she's got a 50% NP charge CE, which is extremely useful when you just quickly need to punch something in the face and get it out of the way. Yeah. Anyway, so that's going on. Hopefully over the next week I'll be able to get caught up on that event. Mercifully, and this is something other people hate but I love, is it's a 3-week long event, which means I don't need to rush. There's plenty of time to get everything done.
Nice.
So even though I've wasted pretty much the first week, I still have plenty of time to do the event. Pinecone's not doing an event right now, I don't think. It's just clan battles. Crab battles.
Next event is on the 1st, and it's a new event.
Crab battle.
Yeah, that crab does not take physical damage, it seems. Like that
Yeah, like I did. I ran the same team against it I ran against everything because I've only got enough characters to make one team, and I did like fully half the damage that I did against any other target.
Yeah, me and Abo tried to esports the snake before it, and we weren't very successful with that either because it has attack down AOE that makes you not hit as hard, and we ran like probably a good 5 trials each trying to math out something until we just gave up. And then we got to the crab and we're like, oh yeah, physical teams don't work.
Yeah, this seems to be an especially obnoxious month actually. Apart from the first one, the goblin, all the bosses seem kind of annoying.
Yeah, the first boss and Rai Rai, who are in every clan battles rotation, are no big deal. But the snake with his attack down and the crab, I haven't fought the middle thing yet. I know I fought it once, and I clobbered it pretty good, but I only fought it once. They just they don't take much physical damage, so you gotta whip the magic team out. And this means Ilya's the tank, which means trial battling your way until you get something where Ilya can survive.
The only way to get Ilya to survive anything is to increase her star level, something I'm not capable of doing. So I don't think that I'm going to contribute much to this clan battle, to be quite honest. It's a really rough one.
We only got 2 days left, and you're doing better than some people.
Well, that's not hard. We've got a lot of lazy non-contributors. But, yeah, my Murder Hobo is literally my only decent DPS, so... Yeah, because everybody else that I've got, apart from Murder Hobo and Shiori, everybody else I've got is calibrated purely for whomping stages and story mode. So...
Yeah. I keep underestimating how much damage Shiori does now with her unique equipment.
It's because it's not from her union burst, because most fights don't go on long enough for that. It's the fact that her triple arrow generates a colossal amount of TP.
Yeah, and she can just go... She can UB like every 3 seconds.
And every time she does, the next one is more powerful. It just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. Like, even, like... She can... On a good run, in the same amount of time, she can do as much damage as Murder Hobo, which is pretty good for my teams. But
yeah, she can outdamage a fully kitted out Eriko sometimes.
Well, that's because Eriko is kind of fickle.
Yeah, if Eriko doesn't crit, then you're screwed.
Like, Eriko not critting seems to be a meme in the community.
Yeah,
but,
you'll do your trial runs with Eriko. She'll murder the boss. You're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do like 4 million damage. You load with the boss, and Eriko just doesn't crit, and you do like 2.8.
Feel the shame. Feel the deep, deep shame. But yeah. What else? The anime that I've been watching. I don't think most of them haven't really changed too much in the way they're executing things. I haven't had time to watch as many as I wanted because I was watching other things. I had some other things I wanted to look at. Like I watched the movie of High School Fleet, which is a niche anime that I really enjoy for reasons I can't really comprehend because there's nothing that remarkable about it. But I really like it, and I think it's because I think that World War II era weapons of war are cool. Like the last time that war had any cool factor to it was World War II. I mean, war is of course a grand atrocity against all that is right in the world. However, one, sometimes it's necessary, and two, the hardware is cool, or it was anyway. Nowadays the hardware is boring because war is basically a series of obnoxious police actions. But
and war also doesn't take place in any cool locales anymore. It's always in a desert. Like nobody cares about the desert.
Or a ruined city. But yeah, so it has a lot of warships in it, and warships are also cool. Like I know that the age of battleships is more or less over, but they're still cool. So yeah, I watched that, and it's more or less what you would expect if you watched that series. In that, eventually the crew of the Harakaze is going to do something completely unfeasible and ridiculous and save the day. But it will be cool watching it happen, so you watch it anyway. But it's a very, very stock movie. Like the plot line that it goes through is basically identical to every other series like it. In that it's like, oh well, there is a rumor that the class is going to get split up if they don't accomplish X. So it's exactly the same as it was in Girls und Panzer. It's the exact same story, except it's with warships instead of with tanks, and it's with terrorists instead of a big sports competition. But yeah, generally speaking, the vector is the same. Anyway, what else? The Trapped in a Dating Sim 1 has sort of gone off the rails a little bit compared to where it was going. It was going very banal at first, but now it's sort of like flirting with some slightly different takes on the genre. Because where before it was like, oh yeah, the guy, he's in a game now and he's going to use what he knows about the game to basically turn things in his favour and have all the girls fall all over him. And it does for like the first 6 episodes, it looks like that. And then things are starting to... I don't know whether they'll follow through, because there's always a chance that they won't with these things, but they're sort of flirting with the idea now that while he doesn't see himself as a main character, because he is abusing his knowledge of the game to make his life more comfortable, he is functionally acting like a protagonist, and so the characters who would respond to a protagonist tend to be responding to him anyway. But on top of that, because he is an outside factor to the way the story played out in the game, he's actually, due to his interference, is retarding the emotional development of other characters who were previously pivotal to the story. And so, like, the original heroine protagonist, instead of gradually coming into her own as a heroine, the way she did in the game, because he's been overprotective of her since he saw her as basically someone that he needed to prevent from going down the game's path exactly because it would make life harder for him. Because he's been interfering with her life, she's now an emotional wreck who doesn't feel like she's got any support because she's not going through the Otome game heroine plotline. So basically the story is his abuse of his knowledge of the way the story is supposed to go is having repercussions on the people that are around him that he's actually beginning to care about, and it's because he's been interfering in the way things are supposed to go and ruining their opportunities by being too heroic. So it's sort of an interesting take on what was previously going down a very straightforward path.
A bit different, yeah.
The one about the Demon Lord being reborn is just trash and continues to be trash.
Yeah, I didn't expect that one to go any other way.
The Quitting Heroing one has devolved into excessive quantities of flashbacks, which have really dragged the pacing down. Because they basically have devoted like 2 or 3 episodes to just telling the backstory of the hero, which is not actually all that interesting.
Yeah, the people around him are far more interesting. He's just kind of generic hero de jure.
I mean, he's got his reasons for the way things are because he's immortal and he's been around for thousands of years, and it's taken a toll on who he is, for better and for worse. but there's nothing particularly groundbreaking in the story. It's just, oh well, we've got to wait for him to go through all of the self-reflection, I guess, and then we can get back to the characters who are actually fun to interact with. But
Yeah.
what else? The Spy Family one still is the best of the season, to be blunt. And I don't know exactly what it is about it that makes it stand so far above, whether it's just, oh well, the production values are high, or there's a lot of hype around or whatever. I think that just generally speaking, it's a well-rounded, well-balanced, well-told story. It's not superlative in any particular direction, but it is very, very solid in every respect, and every episode is enjoyable to watch. So it is definitely a solid recommend for the season, and it doesn't lean too heavily into any particular genre either. I think it can be genuinely enjoyed by basically anybody. Yeah. I don't think there's really anything else much worth commenting about. I don't think the Skeleton Knight in Another World one has gone anywhere particularly interesting. It hasn't gone off a cliff and humiliated itself consistently like the Demon Lord Reborn one. It hasn't done anything really new or interesting like the Dating Sim one. It's just sort of basically stayed on an even keel standard pattern isekai story, which is either a horrific tragedy or passable time filler to watch. I just, for some reason, I don't know why, but I really like the weird power metal ballad that it uses as a opening song.
Was it just that out of place?
No, it's not that it's out of place. It's like really characterful in a weird way.
Okay.
Because he as a hero, he's actually pretty bombastic. Because he's clearly enjoying himself in as much as he can reasonably do without making too much of a spectacle of himself. But he's having fun with being in another world despite his bizarre circumstances. And as a hero, he's not too bad compared to some, like, he's not Kirito, thank goodness. But he's all power, that's the thing. He's ridiculously powerful like Ainz is in Overlord, but he has 0% practical skill with it because he played the hotkey MMO. He doesn't know how to use a sword. He knows how to use the abilities that the swordsman that he has. He can, use a sword swing that will, take out an entire group of bandits in one swipe because he's ridiculously powerful, but he can't fence. He can just sort of bumble around. So he can use all of the abilities he had in the game, but he has no aptitude with them and he doesn't know how to handle himself in a fight. And he gets by on raw power and bombast because he doesn't have any skill.
It honestly sounds like it's kind of like Overlord, except they went the comedy route.
Yeah, it is very, very much like a comedy Overlord, and only the main character is very emotive. Ainz is it's a plot point that Ainz has no emotions, and he expects that he should have emotions, but they're all deadened, and he doesn't know why, and he's investigating why that would be. In this case, he's just himself, except now he's in a skeleton avatar, and he picked the skeleton avatar when he created his character and then wrote a bunch of lore about how, he's a holy knight on a quest to break a curse on him that has turned him into an undead. And that lore seems to have more or less come true because he tries to decurse himself and it temporarily works. But, he's still just definitely having a lark and getting to be a hero while doing it. So, he's... The other characters around him are initially just in awe of him because he's powerful, but his traveling companion, the dark elf girl, has sort of the shine is starting to wear off, and she's like, yeah, he's a good guy, but he's a buffoon.
Yes, not like a certain other dark elf.
No, she's not at all like Carla. There are no similarities between her and Carla, except that nominally they are both dark elves.
I don't think there's any similarities between Carla and anything else.
Carla is special. Carla is very special.
Not in a good way.
The way y'all described Carla, I've only flipped through the first episode. It reminds me of the way you talk about Kuka.
I suppose so, in that their dysfunction sort of overwhelms their nature. Like for Kuka, everything it's just natural for her to read her masochism into everything. Whereas for Carla, it's just she is nasty as easily as she breathes, except she doesn't mean anything by it. It's just the way she talks is horrible and mean and cruel, and she doesn't even. It's ambiguous whether she even knows.
Yeah, even when she's
mean.
trying to be helpful, genuinely helpful, she's scary.
Yeah, like she it's hard to tell whether she actually thinks she's being helpful or whether she genuinely has a callous disregard for the outcomes of her actions.
Yeah. But yeah.
I think my favorite gag is still the one from the first episode or the second episode where she tries to cast a buff and it hits the mushroom
like
monster, and she argues that it is a buff to his flavor and mouthfeel.
That keeps coming back, that joke. So yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. So the season isn't a total loss, but it's also not exactly a victory. There are a couple of shining gems. Like there's a good amount. Don't Hurt Me, My Healer has not very many jokes and it uses them regularly, but it's still a reasonable watch. Spy Family is great. Ascendance of a Bookworm Season 3 is great. Everything else is pretty much...
Yeah.
You can take it or leave it.
I might check out the Skeleton one now, because honestly, everything about it before screams like we've got Overlord at home. But if they've got the comedy route...
It's not a full on comedy. It's still an adventure story, but the fact is that the main character is a goofball, and he's not like being dark and edgy.
Yeah.
Even though he's a skeleton, like he's a skeleton out of coincidence. Like he's a skeleton, and he still tries to do things that skeletons don't do. His favorite thing to do is eat. Like that's his number one priority in any given circumstance, is to find a source of ale and food, so that he can just chow down. Of course, he can't take off his helmet in public, so this presents problems. But yeah, it's not particularly groundbreaking in any way, but it is reasonably entertaining in a popcorn kind of way. But
yeah, all you want.
And he goes to visit the elf girl's hometown and gets absolutely thrashed in a training session with her mother, because her mother is a genius swordswoman and he barely knows which end of the sword you're supposed to put into somebody.
The pointy end.
So yeah, there's a lot of little things in there to like, and mainly I like the opening song, and I don't know why, because it's completely over the top. It's completely silly. But yeah, I'll leave it there. There are other ones that I want to follow up on. Like I haven't followed up on The Executioner and A Way of Life yet, and I haven't started watching Your Boy Kong Ming yet, which I need to watch purely for that name alone.
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth watching, but unfortunately, yeah, I need to find a new Bob to watch it on.
Yeah, I'm still using the one that Ari uses. I don't know if Fern uses it or not, but
maybe
I'll just link it to you.
Yeah, because we can't actually condone that sort of thing.
Well, no, we can condone it. We just can't actually provide the means to do it.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to condone it in the sense that I think that it is either the best thing for the industry or that it is all above board legally or anything like that. But I feel like I've been hedged into it without much of a choice, because I gave a lot of money to Funimation and to Anime Lab back when it was Anime Lab and to Crunchyroll to provide me with a decent service. I was literally subscribed to 2 streaming services at the same time to cover the spectrum of anime, because I like to watch anime in my downtime, and both of those companies betrayed me in one way or another.
Yep.
I tried, I did, and I gave them money, and they did not give me the product I wanted in return. Crunchyroll squandered all of my money on bullcrap projects and gave me crappy service, and Funimation's service almost never freaking worked. It broke down all the time, the app was barely functional. Like, it's just their product is rubbish, and Bob can give me better service.
Yeah.
And it's not even close.
We
So yeah, I don't want to go this way. I spend a lot of money on Blu-rays to have the anime legitimate. Even if I watch it on Bob, if it's even remotely good, I'll probably buy it on Blu-ray sooner or later if it gets localized. But I can't condone supporting the absolute trash product put out by Sony's subsidiaries in this market.
there have been numerous studies and things that have gone into piracy as to what causes it, and it's very rarely is it about actual like people just wanting something for free.
No, it's always a service problem.
It
It's
is always a
because
service problem.
what has been provided as a means of obtaining the product is inferior.
And in the case of half the anime we're actually talking about, it's not available on Crunchyroll or Funimation.
Yeah, well, they're both owned by the same company now, so
They are the same company now, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not meaningful that there be a difference between the two. I think they were just planning to straight up merge them, though it hasn't happened yet. I think they're planning to use Crunchyroll's brand because Funimation's brand is now toxic.
Mind you, so it's Crunchyroll's, so...
Yeah, but it's for different reasons. It's for social justice reasons, because the power center of Sony has shifted to the United States West Coast. They're all down with that.
Yeah.
So
even though the pendulum is swinging.
yeah, it's not going to last another 10 years. That's for sure. People have gotten.
I doubt we'll see another 3 years out of it, honestly.
Not from the end user perspective, but the actual corporate position has a lot of inertia.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like, it'll take a long time to turf out all of the people driving this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
but
Netflix is actually making a very concerted effort to do it at the moment.
Well, they are
known as nonce-flicks by a lot of people.
Yeah, at this point, it's for Netflix, it's either drive out the activists or die.
Yeah,
yeah. They started losing money. It finally hit them in their pocketbook.
Yeah,
it was going to happen. They had to learn this lesson, and they don't. I know that the WEF ensures that BlackRock et al. Will back a lot of these ventures infinitely, since they control most of the money in the world. But there are limits to what a business like Netflix can pull off. So yeah, they shouldn't have come for the children. But all progressive ventures are ultimately aimed at legalizing noncing. If you go right back to the thought leaders of the original movement, like Foucault and all that, like way back, they're all nonces, all of them. Leftism is about noncery. Sooner or later, it boils down to noncery, and we're starting to see the boil burst now.
But you run out of places to go eventually.
Yeah, it's like,
that's all you got left.
For them, all roads lead to noncery anyway. So.
Oh no. So yeah, thankfully the pendulum has started to swing.
Yeah, I don't how it will actually manifest remains to be seen. But
it's manifesting in a lot of screaming so far.
Oh yeah, but that's always the case. They never stopped screaming when they were on top of the world either.
Yeah, that's true. So it's just a different flavor of screaming.
The real question is, how hard will the pendulum swing and how long? Because oftentimes you'll get a swing away from the kind of BS like this that happens.
They'll become complacent way too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll get replaced almost immediately by some new form of dumb wokeness.
But yeah, I expect to see I think that the main reason why Funimation and Crunchyroll are both able to be bought out so easily and then collapsed into a single entity. Number one, because Sony's bad at spending money wisely, and they always have been. But
yes.
Number two is that I think that they are shrinking, generally speaking, because all of the things that they do spend money on have been dead ends, and people don't like the service that they're providing generally.
Yeah. All right. In that case, if you're done with your week, we should probably take a break.
Yep.
All right. Here's some music, folks, and we will be right back. And we're back.
Yas. For those who are just paying attention, I suppose, I'm not playing Kepler anymore. That sort of game I think I really need to actually pay attention to. So I'm doing a bit of Halatali on the Blue Mage. This
Like,
place
keep
is
some
still
abilities.
terrible.
What do you need out of Halatali?
I just went in here because it was level appropriate.
I see.
I think I've got everything I need out of Sestasha, and I think there was an ability in Copperbell, which is... Oh, maybe I don't have that one. I've got Mind Blast, which is out of Sestasha. Now I've got to look. Blue Mage. Unfortunately, everything in the Blue Mage book is not in order of content level, and you can't sort it, which is kind of annoying. Maybe I can filter it. Hang on.
Yeah, I feel like Blue Mage is a class you have to play with a guide.
Yeah, you really do.
I made a Google Docs checklist for myself. It required so much faffery.
First Coil, Dragon's Neck, Pharosyrus, Brayflox, Hard, Hawk Mana.
What level are you?
23.
Oh, yeah. Your first objective is level up.
We need to fix that for him at some point.
I'm like,
but I've done nothing with a Blue Mage and I'm at level 60.
Oh yeah, you guys just kind of barged your way through it.
We all bullied the Minotaur population.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get you to level 61 with the Minotaurs, and then you can go from there. Because you're just locked out of so much by level with Blue Mage. The only thing you need to do is go get Sardine Toss.
I've got Sardine Toss.
Okay.
Partly because
Sardine Toss. Then you're good to go.
Then while we're doing the show, because it's not a whole lot to think about, and I just finished my Heaven on High floor set, I'm going to turn into a dancer, and you're going to come with me to the Lokes.
Alright, well... Let me finish Halatali first.
Okay, after that, make your way to the Lokes.
To the Lokes?
So,
Locks.
we were,
Loch.
Where were we? We were at Balls Week.
No, I'm done with my week.
Okay. I guess we can go into my week, although there's not a whole lot to it. It's I guess I can go into a bit more detail with the stuff I've done since we don't have any news. Basically, I've been stuck at work again, and in preparation for Memorial Day weekend, which is a long weekend, we have a ton of people that were just calling us nonstop to get stuff prepped and started that will hit all at once as soon as Memorial Day weekend ends, because I have a long weekend this weekend. And a lot of this involves sitting around waiting on somebody telling me they're going to call me back.
Ugh, I hate those days.
Yeah, so it was a whole lot of hurry up and wait, while still having a tremendous amount of work to do. But the hurry up and wait would always come at right when I finished the pile of work. So I would be stuck literally just waiting. So it was a mess. I was busy till 6 o'clock most days, although the last 3 hours of it was me sitting there just tapping my foot. And was not a fun week, but wasn't a particularly breaking week. That'll be this week. I'll be dead next weekend. I can guarantee it. Other than that, Abo has really wanted to do Eureka, and he's had to twist my arm to get me to do it. Why
is he so in love with the place?
He just, I'm not sure why he wants to do it, but he really wanted to do it.
Well, in a certain sense, I really want to do it, but I also don't want to set foot there.
That's part of the reason I haven't set foot into Bosnia yet, is because it's like Eureka, but it's better in every way.
Yeah, Eureka will basically become unplayable once you've been to Bosnia.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's having to wait for the pull timers. Okay, so we'll start with our adventure 3 weeks ago, when he first started dragging me there every week. So we hadn't finished Animos yet, and you got to finish your current tier weapon before you move on.
Yes.
The big thing with Animos is, even if you're level capped, you still need a crap ton of Animos crystals. And the tiny crystals you get from breaking the Animos crystals apart.
Mm-hmm.
And this means a ton of NMs, which means a whole lot of sitting around at the base and waiting for an NM to pop or going out and prepping it. And keeping the Eureka tracker up and hope there's a group that's running one and you're not having to manage it, because that thing's a pain in the butt if you're the one that has to manage it.
Yes.
and hope the guy running it knows what they're doing. And then, if somebody posts one and gets a NM train going, you go around and you try and prep stuff, and you just bounce between the NMs. And then what you got to do, when you get to an NM, it'll show up like a fate, and you wait for everybody to get there, because everybody needs these, and the way Eureka has been systematized is you wait until some amount of time, usually the 27-minute marker on the fate countdown before you pull, to give everybody 3 minutes to get there from pop. At least. And if anybody says on the way, people usually try and wait longer. Which means a whole lot of standing around staring at the monster.
Like, from a community perspective, like, it does speak well of the community. But from an actual getting things done perspective, huge pain in the bum.
Yeah.
And this is when you don't have somebody like Barack Obama or Molly something. I'm not kidding. A guy named Barack Obama was doing this.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And go in and face pull it early. And here's the thing with these things. They're fate type enemies, right? So you've got to do a certain percentage of damage based on the number of people that are engaged in the fate in order to get gold ranking and get the most rewards out of it.
Yeah, you need to contribute.
So when somebody face pulls it and pulls it early, everybody on reflex goes.
Yes.
And if you've got a Barack Obama or Molly over there, you've got these two idiots that are in chat laughing that they're early pulling and screwing things up for everybody, and making you have to rush to every NM before Molly or Barack Obama gets there and early pulls it.
Yeah. The problem is because the instinct to just immediately jump into the fight as soon as it starts is so ingrained, you can't just let them charge in and die.
It's not so much an instinct problem as much as you have to do it.
Yeah.
Because if anybody else starts going when the mob is pulled, you will
you'll miss
you
out.
will not. Yeah, you may not get gold reward because some of those reward thresholds require you to be whacking on it with the correct offensive element the whole time.
Yeah. If you miss even a little bit of it, you're going to only get silver and miss out on most of the reward.
Yeah, and this is especially true for the big bosses, Pazuzu and Animos, and people can never remember the name of the one in Pagos, so they call it everything from Lahi to Luigi. So I've seen like 800 different names for this thing because nobody can remember what it's called. And yeah. It's just a pain in the butt to do. And this is the only efficient way to get crystals. And in Pagos, you get a kettle from Geralt. And this thing fills up with light as you farm enemies normally, or you kill NMs. Now, the farming part only works with stuff your level or higher, which is not a problem if you're aiming to do that way, but nobody does it that way. Everybody just tries to farm NMs, and by getting gold rank, you get a huge chunk of the kettle filled up. And you have to be able to fill up this kettle 4 times.
Yeesh.
And that takes forever because you get like 1/10 of it per NM.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a right pain in the butt. And it drives me nuts. So we did that and we got through Pagos. And it took 3 weeks to get from Animos to the end of Pagos, doing it about 1.5 a week, 1.5 times a week. We're now in Pyros. And Pyros is where they started to get a little experimental.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's better?
Yes and no. In Pyros, you still have the NM problems, but you also have the Boja abilities. And a bunch of them are passives. Thankfully. The method you unlock these things requires you to pull up the Eureka tracker and go to their special page on it and track how many you've unlocked because progress is locked by how many special abilities you've unlocked. But just following that page after tinkering with it a bit and just poking around at it will get you there after about 30 minutes. And you can figure out that part of it. And these abilities make Pyros way easier because they do things like give tanks 80% more damage.
Oh,
give
wow.
DPS 120% more damage, or double their health and reduce their damage taken by 20%.
That does sound a lot better.
Yeah. So what this means is, because the NMs are still scaled the same as the other NMs for the other zones, it means you don't have to worry about dying to any stray mechanic you don't recognize.
Yeah, that is not nearly enough to have that effect in Bosnia.
Yeah.
In Bosnia, even if you've got all of the buffs that you could possibly want, you're still going to get destroyed by Red Chocktober.
Yeah. What's his name? The big robot dude that has just sprays his battlefield with telegraphs.
There's several of those. I don't know which one you mean.
The crab-legged walkie robot.
Oh yeah. Well, all of the bosses in those events are serious business. None of them are pushovers.
Yeah, it's just that one in particular. I always screw up at some point. So yeah. So Pyros has been better with the buffs because the enemies still aren't scaled either, as though you have these buffs. They're scaled like normal enemies.
Okay.
So it means big pulling is way easier in a group of 2 people. It means farming above your weight class and your level isn't nearly as punishing. And it's in a more enjoyable experience just because it's less of a pain in the butt. It's still not fun. No part of it is fun, and I still hate it. But at this point, I'm already over halfway done, so I guess I'm getting drug along to the completion of this thing.
That's kind of depressing because it means that I'll never get it done because I don't think I could do it by myself. And if you're already done, then
well, here's the thing.
I'll never go back.
Here's the thing. The actual reward is the elemental armor, because that's what you get for glamour.
It is a very cool-looking armor set.
Everybody wants the elemental armor from Eureka, and this means I still have to go back and kill NMs nonstop at the other locations. I just don't have to do any extra faffery. Like, I don't have to finish the challenge log and stuff. So I can still come in and do NM groups with people if we want to go.
I hate every second of it.
Oh, yeah. I'll hate every second of it, but I can still come in and make progress on my elemental armors. And you need to finish the weapon first, according to most of the guides I've read. It's very hard to tell with Eureka because I think they realized they just had a piece of crap because they edited how Eureka works like every single patch in Stormblood.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like, it's still not as bad as World of Warcraft in-game. Like, you were playing during Legion, at least part of it, right?
I know.
The outcome of Legion was them doing the same thing again multiple times in successive expansions. The outcome of Eureka was Bosnia, which is great.
Yeah, so Bosnia is much better. And in every way. The simple register for fate mechanic is so much better because it cuts out the enforced social aspect of, okay, everybody, we're going to pull at 27. Anybody on the way?
Yeah, it's got like everybody gets an alert. All of the timers are built into the system.
Yeah, you can carry as many abilities in your pouch as you want. It seems like, or at least as many as you could feasibly use.
You have to slot them, but you've got like a million slots.
Yeah, you got 1 million in your pouch, and I think you can have 3 that you can choose to actively cycle, and 1 that can be active at any given time as your actual ability, or something like that.
It's been a while since I've been there, but it's
something like that.
Definitely a vastly superior system, and shows that they really were paying attention to the lessons that they needed to learn from Eureka.
They've actually gone back and added an ability pouch to hold 3 abilities in Pyros. It used to be you could only hold 1.
Yee.
You could unlock all of the abilities and have them sitting in the chest at base, but you could only carry 1 around with you. But now they let you carry 3 in your pouch and have 1 active at any given time. So that's at least nice.
Yeah, it sounds like a much better quality of life change, that one.
So yeah, that's been the Eureka experience. Palace of the Dead and Heaven on High. Most of my time spent in these areas has been when I spend my solo time right now, because I find it just very good audiobook material. The audiobook of choice right now has been A Patriot's Guide to U.S. History. I've been re-going through it and listening to the full 55-hour audiobook. This is a U.S. history textbook used in homeschooling.
Okay.
And I love this history book so far, because it goes into a lot of things in U.S. history that the normal U.S. history textbook just kind of glances over or only touches on. Things like Hamilton and Jefferson's bitter hatred of each other by the end of their political careers, and how they split apart so much. And this is a blatantly
And somehow you people didn't think that you would end up with factions in your government?
That was only Washington. Every other person was like, it's inevitable.
Oh yeah.
But even Washington, he took Hamilton's side on most things. He was for a stronger government after the initial rebellions. And he started to drift away from that, though, when he saw how bad that was getting. But he was out of office and dead shortly after. So he didn't have a whole lot of time to continue adjusting his perspective. But yeah, it goes over... It doesn't push any of the modern narratives, like how everything revolved around slavery. There were actually other thought processes that went on in U.S. history, in how things were formed and set up, and is a blatantly right-leaning piece of educational literature, which is rare.
By which you mean it actually has some kind of values to it?
Yeah, it talks about how Christianity was important to the founding of the country, and how every founding father assumed that, we're going to be a Christian nation.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is that even the because I don't really consider myself to be aligned with the American right in my way of thinking, because ultimately I'm a monarchist, because I would have been a crown loyalist in the American Rebellion, but even the thinking of more reactionary people like me say that, while we think that the contribution of Christianity as it existed at the time in the United States was in many ways a negative one, because of basically the cathedral of academia was established as a part of the Puritan religion that had taken over America, we still think that was the most formative thing, the most formative aspect of the way that America came to be. But even if we think that the outcomes were not necessarily what the American conservatives believe they are.
But it goes into full detail about how important Christianity was, and how the founders assumed a strong moral foundation in some form of faith in God to guide the country and future generations. Otherwise, it just wouldn't work. And they just kind of took it for granted that would always be the case. And it goes into elaborate how that was a giant mistake. Because people will naturally drift away from it if you just assume things and don't put in any kind of way to secure it. So it's a very interesting read, because you don't hear U.S. history from a right-leaning perspective very much. Especially from a very educational stance like this book, like a textbook takes. It's something most people, I would wager, have never heard before.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of views that are not going to be aired in there either, because it is a textbook. Yeah. It's been written as almost a quaternary source on the topic, a compilation of tertiary sources, but I think ultimately the best way to get your history is to read primary sources from both sides wherever you can get them.
Yeah, it does a very good job of sourcing primary sources, but it is incredibly selective in the primary sources it cites.
It's like one American in 20 million knows anything about the Crown Loyalist side of the revolution.
Yeah,
this is it's an unknown topic. It's sort of like how everybody assumes the Nazis were evil because they were just congenitally evil, and not because the people of Germany had a particular point of view because they felt put upon by the rest of the world after the First World War. Like, most people don't think of the Nazis as a symptom; they think of them as a source of evil.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like that. The other side isn't explored because they didn't win.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much just history in a nutshell, really.
Yeah. So getting primary sources from both sides is always the best way to find information on how things actually took place. Like, most people don't know that a lot of the America's founding fathers that signed that document, that declaration, were little more than thugs. They were just thugs that were in the right place at the right time. There were only a very tiny handful of them were actually political visionaries. Most of them were just muscle.
But yeah, I'm not gonna stay on the topic of a textbook too much. It's a very interesting read.
My equivalent, on the other hand, has been listening to podcasts about cryptids.
I mean, yeah.
So yeah. And while I've been going through this textbook, I've been doing a whole lot of solo Palace of the Dead and Heaven on High and continuing my 3-week-long venture into those dungeons. My new record for solo Palace of the Dead is floor 174.
Nice.
What is the last floor? Does it go up to 200?
Yeah. 200.
Yep.
The problem is those last 30 floors are absolutely brutal.
Well, if the last step wasn't a doozy, it wouldn't be an adventure.
Yeah, it's well, actually, the last 50 floors are really, really brutal, but especially the floors 170 to 190 are a nightmare.
That's why it's the rarest achievement in the game.
Yeah, you gotta really go into those floors with your pomander stocked, and you've gotta use them smartly, and you have to not get screwed.
Yeah.
And you have to play the game perfectly.
Also, I'm in the box, by the way.
Well, it's not even play the game perfectly, though. It's play the specific version of the game that is the deep dungeon.
Yes.
The solo deep dungeon, even. Solo deep dungeon is its own type of gameplay.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's a totally unique experience. So, Fern, come to me.
Where are you?
And,
way over there, okay.
And when you get over here, we're going to drop group, and we're going to run around, and you're going to tag mobs with sardine toss, and then I'm going to kill them. And
you're going to see the meaning of the phrase fast leveling.
This should be interesting then. I was just going to leave Blue Mage as a mindless grind, but it's a bit too grind.
Yeah, you're not doing that. What you're going to do is you're going to get your butt up here, and we're going to kill Minotaurs.
Right, and I'm going to hit him with fish.
I've done this for both Vol and Abo. This is the fastest way I've found.
Is it actually the most efficient way, or is it just the one that we hit upon?
It seems to be one of the most efficient ones. I think the zombies inside the cave might be better, but there's too much of a chance you'll aggro one through the wall.
Ugh.
So, you see that hilltop in the distance, Fern? Well, when you get here, you'll see it.
Yep.
Yeah, this is another thing that I did. Was you're about to see me demonstrate me getting what I did to get Abo set up with Blue Mage. So, now, I'm going to drop group. And you see that mountain up there? We're going to pull...
Yep.
Just directly in front of us. You're going to pull Minotaurs. I'm going to kill them. And we're going to run up that mountain. And we're going to keep doing that. So, throw your fish.
Yeet.
And now what level are you?
25. Just 2 levels. Bang. Right there.
There you go. So
that's kind of silly.
You don't need to keep running, Fern. You're going the wrong direction. That's the wrong mountain.
Wrong mountain. Okay.
Yeah, we're just killing the Minotaurs. Just up the mountain.
Oh, that mountain. Okay.
If you don't know where to go, I will point. Just look in the direction I'm facing after we kill a Minotaur. And don't run out of range of the Minotaur's aggro radius, or you don't get EXP.
Yeah.
So throw your fish. And also, I'm a dancer, so I'm not particularly powerful. just FYI.
So we're just going to run around and kill Minotaurs for the rest of the show, then.
Yes, and Fern will get mini levels. So throw your fish. So yeah. And yeah. So Palace of the Dead is far harder than Heaven on High solo. For 2 reasons. Fern, I lost you.
I just went and got a Minotaur in the bushes.
And always go towards the mountain. Don't go off on side paths.
All right.
Yeah, just go up the mountain, and then I'll point. Yeah, go up the mountain. I'll show you where we go down the mountain once we clear out the top of the mountain, and then we loop back around.
All right.
So yeah, Palace of the Dead is far harder than Heaven on High.
just
And that is because
there we go.
Heaven on High has only 100 floors, and Heaven on High has several commanders that make the journey much easier. That being the Commander of Petrification and the Commander of Frailty. Petrification turns everything to stone, and any attack will one-shot anything that's petrified, and it does it for the whole floor. This is the best get-out-of-jail-free card and fast clear tool you can imagine. Fall behind on time, 30 seconds.
That's plenty.
Yeah, that's plenty to get you through the floor or get you out of a sticky situation.
And just keep throwing my fish.
Yep. So,
I do love the Blue Mage leveling achievement as well. It couldn't be called anything else.
Okay, we're at the top of the mountain now. Follow me.
Where'd you go? Over that way. Okay.
Yep, follow the sheep. So, we get to the top of the mountain, and then we come down here. And
again.
And we just run back to the front of the mountain.
Right. Okay, this could be just a loop.
Yep.
Of fish chucking.
Yep, it is the most efficient way. I would not run towards the Minotaur when you pull it, because it still auto-attacks you and one-shots you, so...
What, even with Mighty Guard?
Oh yeah, they're level 69, dude.
Oh yeah, okay. Also, nice. Alright,
So,
yeah, so there's actually no news, so we need to milk a bit more time.
Well, there's
yeah, we're still going. But,
yeah, he's not done with his week. His week is long, apparently.
Milk it!
Yeah, I'm milking it because we got no news. So, the other thing with Heaven on High is the Magicite you get. This is the reason they put this into Heaven on High, because eventually you get to a point where there is no reason to open silver chests in Palace of the Dead. And Magicite are a instant floor clear. They will kill everything on the current floor.
What's the catch?
None. You have to get them from silver chests, which can explode. But
well, yeah, okay.
But other than that, no, there isn't anything. So
do you at least get the experience for it, or some of them?
No. If you have 99 Aether Pool, you don't get anything. There's a Minotaur here, Fern.
Yeah, you know, he just popped in. Might be going
So,
a
yeah.
little bit too quick.
Yeah, we can slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, because there should be another one just up here.
Yeah, he'll respond in a sec. But yeah. And this makes tanking or playing a tank class in Heaven on High way easier, because you can get the durability of a tank and still have time to clear the floor. Because you still have commanders like Flight and Alteration to speed up floors if you need it. And Mimics, which are normally a very scary enemy type in Palace of the Dead, become a very good way to clear the harder floors. And Heaven on High's trash mobs, though, are way scarier and hit way harder. And
yeah, a lot of them can just outright kill you, more or less.
Yeah, from floor 70 plus, any telegraphed ability is a one-shot. Period, end.
Eesh.
So,
you gotta watch yourself. Don't lag. Don't have any hiccups on your connection.
Otherwise you just get smushed.
Yeah, it's game over. And I have not taken a DPS class through Heaven on High yet, but I imagine the kiting game is even more intense than it is in Palace of the Dead. Because holy crap, some of those mobs. The highest we got was floor 84 duo in Heaven on High, and the highest I've gotten is into the 70s, but solo, but I haven't started that 70 run yet. So I beat the floor 70 boss solo, but I have not continued past that point. And this is mostly due to the fact that I started a separate solo run after we wiped in the 80s, because I'm convinced every single person who's in the group needs potions, sustaining potions for Heaven on High past that point, because there's AoE damage everywhere and it hits like a truck. And it's totally unavoidable.
Well, you could also just bring a healer.
Yeah, you could, but if you're two-manning, you also have, and you don't really know what you're doing, having a DPS there is basically necessary to get things done quickly, because a tank's DPS ain't gonna cut it unless you really know what you're doing. and so having a tank and a healer and a DPS there makes making the floor timers way easier because time becomes an issue. We finished the 70 to 80 floor set with me and Avo together, him playing Red Mage and me playing Dark Knight, with I think 40 seconds to spare.
Cutting it pretty fine.
Yeah, and we did get some really big floors and just not have any good luck on that in terms of getting to the exit, but still, that timer is really tight. So yeah, that's been my experience going through it. I enjoy both of them as just content to casually do, which is still surprising to me because normally I really don't like roguelike content.
I think you're getting old. I think a lot of our changing tastes are to do with us getting old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's just something that doesn't, for the early floors, doesn't require any brain work, and when it does get to the brain work part, it's enjoyable enough on its own when I finally sit down and want to do it. So yeah, it's something that I'll probably keep poking at as long as it holds my interest, and as long as I add classes that can get EXP from it.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. It's really good EXP that doesn't eat your rested.
Oh, nice.
So I've over the course of the last 3.5 weeks in Palace of the Dead have completed one of my big projects, which was get every class to level 50.
Yep.
And that means there is no more junk in my bags that is not Poetics gear.
I have all the junk. The junk is me.
Yeah, and
I've got so much junk. Ari gets upset every time he sees my inventory.
yeah, you guys know how obsessively I keep my inventory clean. There'll be one right here in a sec.
Yeah, there he is.
There he is.
Fish! Feel the power of
Fish go.
sardines!
Go fish, go.
Now you got to get them all to 60.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a slow going process.
Yeah, no more duty support or anything like that. The XP percentage is not quite so high from Heaven on High.
Yeah, it's Heaven on High is still really efficient, but it's just not as good as Palace.
Yeah.
And you can't chew through floors nearly as quickly in Heaven on High. And by the way, you do have to start at floor 1 if you want any of the solo Chivos, so there's that.
There is also that.
But that also means even though the first 50 floors in Palace don't give as much EXP, they go up from half the EXP of post 50, gaining 10% per floor set up to 100% once you pass floor 50. And so it's still a ton of EXP, and the rate you clear the early floors in Palace, you get a just truckload of EXP per minute. Especially when you start playing Palace and Heaven on High with gold chests are a thing that you need to stockpile for the later floors, and just don't futz around with them and just pick up the ones that are available as you go. So yeah, I've stopped completely worrying about trying to optimize commander usage for the current floor and have instead shifted to chests will come as I go. I do not push the Pomander button unless I absolutely have to. Because you need to stockpile an entire set for the later floors. Ooh, he almost one-shot you.
Yeah, that's smarts.
Yeah, that's why I told you to be careful running at them after you fish them. Because they can sometimes take a minute to change their target.
Yeah. And I just got bitch slapped by it. Alright.
So
He's
yeah,
only on
that's,
level 44 already.
yeah, just keep fishing.
Keep
Throw
fishing.
your fish. Just keep throwing your fish.
Velvatorez was onto something.
He was. Sardines are the most effective means of doing anything, apparently.
Yes.
Go bird, go.
Alright. Anything else for your week?
No, that's pretty much it. Working, coming home, turning on textbook, and going through Palace of the Dead and Heaven on High, and doing a bit of Eureka.
Yeah, alright. I might have to do a bit of Eureka as my mindless grind instead of Blue Mage. That might be the better
Yeah.
way to go.
You're gonna be there a while anyway.
Yeah, like I did learn early on with Blue Mage, it's like a lot of classes you do your class quests and you get at least a level out of them.
Yeah,
Blue
we
Mage?
need to get you.
No.
No, we just need to get you to level 61 to get your Chocobo Meteor.
Ah, yes. Chicken bomb.
Or I think it's 53 actually. You can get Chocobo Meteor.
Where do you get it from?
Where do you get it from?
You get it from the Dravanian near Tailfeather. There's some Chocobos that drop meteors. They're just regular trash enemies that float around that area.
Oh,
I like it. That's
okay.
just a thing Chocobos can do, and they've always been able to do it. They
just do
can
that.
shoot meteors because reasons.
Aside
Yeah,
from their
they're just
high
That's just
flying
how it
kick.
be.
yeah. It's a move that has normal potency scaling for an AOE move, but it has some stupid multiplier if your chicken's out.
Ah.
So if you want to solo grind, you just get Chocobo Meteor and you drop meteors on things.
Which is good because 1,000 needles is a pain.
Yeah, you're not in the 1,000 needles range anymore.
No, I'm out of that now. I was at the top end of the 1,000 needles range.
Yeah, and now you're well and truly past that point.
Yeah.
Let's see, what level are you? You're 47.
47. And we've been around,
So, yeah.
4 times? 5 times?
Yeah, got you like 25 levels in 4 laps.
Yeah. It's a bit silly. But does this
Yeah,
only work for Blue Mage?
No, I think it works for anything.
No, it's just that the XP multiplier on Blue Mage is so ridiculously high that it's
Behind
actually
you.
worth doing.
Yeah.
Fern, there's a
Oh, there he is. Whoops. 'Cause, yeah, Blue Mage, if you kill stuff that's higher level, you get a massive XP multiplier, whereas every other class, I think, is penalized for it. To a point.
Oh, you still get full EXP for it for if it's a certain amount in your level range, but
Yeah.
and you get chain bonuses for killing stuff that's a little bit above your level range.
Yeah. But, yeah, Blue Mage, you're supposed to be going out of your way to do nonsense like that, so you get rewarded more for it.
Yeah, but Blue Mage has always rewarded people for breaking the game as much as possible.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to do. I like having the carnival available at level 70 because it's a source of 500 tomestones and a ton of 500 allied seals per week.
Yeah.
If you are planning to do, any Realm Reborn relic weapons, you need access to.
need
Like the only reason that I was able to get my Bravura as far as I have is because I was playing the game when the hunt was the done thing that everybody was always doing in A Realm Reborn original Aeolzia zones, and so I had leftovers. But nowadays, you pretty much need to use the carnival for it.
Yeah, and the carnival is I think the carnival is actually a lot of fun. It's a fun weekly challenge that requires not much brain work, but a little bit of brain work.
It seems to be your sweet spot right now. Is anything that requires just a little bit of brain work?
It's something that that's engaging enough for me to have to pay attention, but not have to commit too much thought to.
Yeah.
That's where I like my lazy content, because I don't want something cookie clicker brainless. But
No,
I
not
don't want
something that brainless.
But I don't want something when I'm tired after work that's going to require me to be in serious gamer mode.
Yeah, which is why Eureka and Bosnia are great for that.
Well,
You need to pay attention.
The
to
later, the later ones, especially in Eureka as well, you need to really pay attention.
In Bosnia, it's too much brain work. For
Bosnia is like you will level redonkulously fast in Bosnia if you commit to it, but it is like sweaty gamer time play, and I presume it's not after you've been doing it a long time, but you have to pay attention. It is not friendly. Everything will kill you given half a chance. Just walking across the map will kill you if you don't pay attention.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I did go into Bosnia today with Abo, and he wanted to go in there, but I didn't have anything at 70, so did a bit of heaven on high and got my Dark Knight to 71.
Nice.
And,
that's 50.
No, grats. Keep on marching.
Keep throwing them fish.
Yeah, just keep throwing them fish. And
Well, the point, I need to make myself stylish again.
yeah, I can abandon you at about the early 60s. Then you can go off on your own, because then the EXP won't be worth it.
Yeah.
But until then, I can dance for you while you throw fish.
So, okay, step 1, get to the 60s. Step 2, dress properly. Then step 3,
Yes.
go do whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, I did go into Boja, and we found a rando that was killing the Fourth Legion dudes, and we brought him along with us to just murder them in between the encounters that we could queue up for. And he was like level 25, but he just wanted clusters, so he would just say, "Okay, that's fine. Y'all can go run off and do the encounters whenever they pop. I'm just going to keep killing these things, and y'all can just head back when those are over." And he was cool with that. We just pulled one at a time and just chain pulled them, and managed to farm up enough clusters to finally buy mount speed for me anyway. Abo didn't get enough.
I'm never
But
going to get it. I've got like 2 clusters in Bosnia ever.
Yikes.
It took like 2 hours for me to get the remaining 15 I needed or something like that.
I don't know why they decided to do that. It seems very, I don't know. It seems a very, very like classist sort of.
Yeah, it's a very odd system they got going on there with those clusters, because you have to kill the trash that's labeled Fourth Legion to get Boja clusters, but this trash otherwise doesn't have any purpose, and everybody's always zipping off to want to go do the encounters. So you really got to just mono focus it and go in there with a buddy or something and just try and farm these things. And it's not really feasible to do Boja properly until you get it, because the regular fates you would do in between the encounter
over
pops,
by the time you get there.
yeah, it takes too long to get to them. Like, the first thing he asked was, "Do you guys have your mount speed up?" Like, "No, that's why we're farming clusters." He's like, "Oh." And he was a nice guy. I forgot his name, but he just kind of chilled out with us and was killing dudes, and we'd come help him kill dudes in between encounters that popped.
Fair enough then.
Yep, hung out with him for about an hour and a half. So, yeah. The community for Boja so far has been nice, but my experience is one dude.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you're also comparing it to Eureka, which is sort of, when it's nice in the wrong way, and when it's nasty in the wrong way.
I mean, I fell into
Thanks,
a nice group my first attempt through Eureka, and we kind of chewed things away pretty nicely for a while. And then we turned our attention to the fates, and we had the inevitable twat who insists on pulling early.
yeah, and then you got Barack Obama.
Yeah, and that kind of just soured everyone's mood straight away.
Yeah, it.
I'm pretty sure Ari's mood sours when he gets asked to go to Eureka.
Yeah, I do not like that place. That is no secret. I have to be arm twisted to go there.
Yeah, like it had to happen, I think, because that's how we got Boja. But yeah, their first attempt hasn't aged all that well.
Yeah, I don't mind community encouraged content. I don't mind group content. I don't even really mind interacting with randos that much. I usually prefer not to, but I don't mind it. Eureka is just set up to make it the worst experience possible in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
And thankfully, with current, I think you just dodged his attack because I saw you.
I think I did.
Make an oof animation. There should be one that repops down here.
Yeah. Once he pops in, we can do another lap.
Just keep on going. What you at? 52? Keep going.
Yep. More fish.
So yeah.
Yeah.
If you ever need to level Blue Mage for whatever reason, I did the solo grind. Don't do that. That was a bad idea.
I started the solo grind and just realized that.
I think I found this near the end of my solo grind and had somebody help me get through the 50s. Was that you, Vol, that I had helped me get through the 50s?
I don't remember exactly. But I do remember that the reason why I got leveled to 60 was that I simply asked, is there any reason why you can't just do this from the start? And
Yeah.
so you're like, I don't know, let's find out. And so I went there, and I was like level 5 on my blue mage. When it got me my sardine toss, it was good.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to be about level 5 in order to survive the penguin long enough to get the sardine toss.
Yeah, but that was all though. Like,
That was about it.
Actually, I don't think I was 5. I think it was a level 11. I remember it was an odd number like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just come out here, get a buddy, stay out of group, and just tag stuff with your sardine, and then your buddy kills it.
Throw fish at minotaurs.
Yep. I do. There's probably a faster, more efficient spot, but I like the minotaurs because they're spaced out enough that you can safely keep running between them in time with their respawn, and they are big, slow mother effers. So they take forever to get to you, so their chance of getting a free whack is pretty low.
Yeah. As long as you don't do it dumb. Like I insist on doing.
As long as you don't do it dumb, and it helps to have your partner be a ranged DPS class of some kind. Bard or Mechanist would probably be better than Dancer, because Dancer damage is Dancer damage. But
Dancer damage through this whole expansion has just been kind of blur so far.
I mean, we do okay damage if we can get ourselves rolling and get lucky with our feathers.
Mm-hmm.
But these Minotaurs I don't have time to dance. I don't have time to set a flourish.
Ranged physical DPS has always been a pseudo support class. That was always the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they have only given them damage now because of the amount of whinging bards did about having subpar damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mind doing slightly lower damage as a dancer. Mechanist is probably your best class if you got a buddy that's Mechanist to do this with.
Yeah. Well,
but,
Machinist gives away the support options for the most part in exchange for just ridiculous burst.
You got
And the
that
worst
right.
rotation ever.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, screw Ricochet. I want that ability gone.
It causes
If
so
that ability-
much trouble.
I honestly thought when I looked at the design before I started playing it, I honestly thought that Ricochet and Gauss round shared a cooldown, shared charges, so that you would use one or the other,
Nope.
depending on the circumstance. Because that makes sense in my head, right?
That would make more
Yeah.
sense. But nope.
And it's
I might check,
double
actually. I
bad.
think it was originally like that.
It's double bad because in Palace of the Dead, because if you're playing Mechanist, you're playing it to do the burst strat, which is a viable strat, and Mechanist I think it has the most clears right now because it's so effective at the higher floor trash tiers. They have a bit of harder time with some of the bosses though, because they don't have a heal.
Yeah, you've got second wind and that's it.
Yeah, but they can kite with slows and their burst is nuts. But Ricochet has two problems. First, Ricochet needs to be weaved anytime you pop your overheat. And that's a pain in the butt to do. And can really screw with your the way you're doing stuff. The other problem is Ricochet's an AoE. So if you open with an overheat in a room and start throwing that stuff out, you might accidentally ricochet something around the corner you didn't see, and that has almost gotten me killed at least 4 times.
Yeah, it's not a small AoE either. It's a solid.
It's a solid 10 yards.
Radius, yeah.
Yeah, or something like that. It's a big old AoE.
Which isn't a problem if you're fighting something out in a field. You just weave it in and away you go. But
In Palace?
Palace, and I've had a lot of troubles with it in Fates. Because sometimes there's just Fates there. You don't want to pull more than 1 or 2 things at a time. Otherwise, you get smushed.
Your life isn't depending on your burst damage in a Fate. Your
Yeah.
life is depending on your burst damage in Palace.
Oh, completely.
Especially if you have a damage down debuff or a blindness debuff or something, and you don't want to Serenity it off because you've got to save your Serenities.
Yes.
And you do need a full stack of Serenities going into the difficult floors, otherwise you're screwed in Palace. Because if you get a no items plus anything, it's a no-win floor. No items can be a no-win floor sometimes just by itself.
Does that
You've
knock
got
out
to
commanders as well?
Yes. It
Yeah.
locks every commander except for Serenity, and it locks your sustaining potion, your only method of healing.
Eee.
So you need a full set of Serenities. But this means you have to push that ricochet button when you're doing your burst.
Yeah.
And
Oh, you're not going to have enough burst.
This is incredibly dangerous, and learning how to ricochet right is something I'm still not got the hang of.
Mm-hmm.
It is an art in Palace to learn how to do that correctly.
Yeah, at least in
hang
other
on,
places,
I
like, you just Don't.
I accidentally right. Hang on.
Throw a fish at it
Okay.
anyway.
Okay, you're good. But yeah.
Yeah. It's been a point of contention, actually, with machinists ever since they were introduced. That the weave is very ping unfriendly.
Yeah.
You need to do it perfectly, otherwise you're just not going to get the max DPS out of them. And if you've got an oceanic ping, then doing it perfectly is extremely difficult.
Well, if you play on the oceanic servers, you can do it.
The only way you could reasonably do it is to get both of your charges to 0 when you start overheat, and get their timers as close to their maximum as possible, and then alternate weave.
I don't know why it persists though, because they went out of their way to remove the jank from Warriors and Dark Knights.
They removed a lot of jank at the start of Shadowbringers when they redid the class not completely, but they redid it a fair bit. But for some reason, they left that bit of jank in.
Maybe they feel it's become too characteristic to get rid of, or something.
Maybe, or they just can't think of a better way to do it.
I mean,
well, all you need to do is adjust the total damage done during the burst window by fiddling the numbers, and then make them share charges so that you can only weave one or the other.
Yeah.
And then that's the problem solved. It's just a math problem, really, isn't it?
The problem is it's not just those two things you have to weave. You also have to weave in...
But those two things are the ones that present the problem.
They present the biggest problem, yeah. But you can alternately you can weave in your robot or other things like that instead of one of those shots.
But that doesn't have to follow that 1.5 second GCD overheat window where you have to spam them.
Yeah.
You bitched that dude awfully close. You're lucky he retargeted fast.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention. So, yeah, if you... When I'm playing Machinist, I do not weave during the Heat Blast. I will just Heat Blast, and that's it. Because I cannot weave during that.
Yeah, you on a good day, you might be able to squeeze one of them in. There's no way you're doing the alternate weave crap with your latency there.
At the most,
I've tried it in the past, but I think that I'm just losing. I'm losing the damage off of clipping instead, and I don't actually know which is worse.
Yeah, I think attempting to do it and failing it is the worst. So at most, I will throw in my robot, or maybe set up wildfire for the post heat blast wave.
It even wouldn't be so bad if they would just make a full 2.5 second GCD on overheat, but that would totally kill the ability.
Yeah.
Well, the reason people like it is because that speed.
Yeah, that's your Daka time.
Yeah, it's very important to the feel of the class.
Mm.
Yeah, and since they need to have that, it's just it's a difficult thing. My experience is also slanted because my experience is Solo Palace of the Dead, where every little thing matters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That one's a very slow one to turn around.
Yeah, I danced on him right away though, so he retargeted immediately.
Yeah. So yeah, there's things that need to be done, and I think if they really want to do it, they'd probably have to completely redesign how the Heat Blast round works. Your hypercharge Heat Blast mechanic.
No, I really think you just gotta adjust the potency and make Gauss round and Ricochet share a cooldown.
Oh yeah,
that way
I do
you've
that
still
anyway.
You've still got the weaving. It's all intact. It's just that you're not being asked to do an unreasonable weave. Because a double weave in 2.5 is fine. Technically speaking, if your ping is good, you can triple weave in a 2.5 cooldown. But doing the double weave in the 1.5 is impossible unless you're able to also triple weave under a 2.5. It's not reasonable ask of people.
Even doing the single weave, I tend not to do it.
Yeah, I can't do the double weave with Heat Blast on my ping, and my ping's great.
Yeah. No, I can't do single weave on mine, so yeah.
Yeah, I can do alternate.
I've been able to do the double weave in the past, but only by chance. Like if the ping happens to cruise into range, sometimes it will go off correctly. Most of the time, it won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not the only class that has that sort of problem in some cases, but it's by far the most prominent.
No, it is the only class that has that problem because no other class has a 1.5 second cooldown as part of their standard rotation. The closest,
yeah, okay, getcha.
the closest one to it is Ninja because the Mudras have such a short cooldown that executing that correctly requires you to be both quite mechanically coordinated with your button presses and also to have a good ping because the reason I hate playing Ninja is because the lag compensation queue tends to wreak merry havoc with queuing Mudras.
Yeah, the problem I had with the ninjas is like it ran into the ping problem as well, where it becomes possible to enter the mudras too fast.
Well, you're going to have a lot of trouble finding the sweet spot, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Because you can, when the entire length of the Mudra cooldown still remains, if you press it again, it will still in queue to go off immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So if you double tap, the second one won't get lost to the void like it will for most abilities. It will just in queue and go in.
Yeah. That ninja is just kind of janky at the best of times, so yeah.
Well, a lot of people, as far as mechanics go, find it's the most satisfying to play.
It is.
Because it's got the first 30 seconds are the most complex play you will find in any MMO on Earth.
Oh yeah. If you're able to pull ninja off, by all means, just go for it because it is satisfying. But
their damage is bonkers now as well.
Yeah, they got buffed in the last patch. But yeah, when you're dealing with a ping or just slightly janky mechanics, they can be extremely frustrating.
But in other ways, it is sort of an almost ideal MMO class in the sense that the mechanical requirements of you to play perfectly are very, very steep, but the reward is very, very high for doing it. Like, your damage is absolutely off the charts if you can do it perfectly. If you can't, your damage is mediocre at best.
The bunny of failure will haunt you as well. Incidentally, you still don't see a whole lot of ninjas around.
Well, people have gotten used to the idea that it's really hard to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Abo switched to Bard from Ninja. And now he's trying Red Mage out.
Yeah. I got Ninja to 50. That's probably where I'm going to leave it for now.
Yeah, it's the lowest level class I have. It's sitting at 50, barely into 50.
Mine is at 43, which makes it second lowest equal. Astrologians at 41, Bards at 43, Ninjas at 43.
Yeah. Astro is another class where the mechanically pushing the buttons isn't hard. It's brain wrapping to get yourself in the right headspace there.
You also need to be on good terms with Lady Luck, so...
Yeah. What is that?
That's the hunt target. Pull the Minotaur first.
Yeah, that's... Whoops. Not nice spikes. Fish. Let's get the Minotaur out of the way and then we'll smack him. Because he should be a nice spud of experience.
I don't know if it works like that.
Well,
I don't know if it does either, but shoot your fish.
More fish! I know that more than one fish doesn't actually do anything, but shush.
Hey man, it does like 1 damage, doesn't it?
I think it is only about 1 damage. What's it got? Potency of 10. So it doesn't do much. Although, I probably could have fished him there, but never mind.
Yeah, he is. He am dead. Was he worth more?
No. I didn't get any experience. So. He was only worth maybe 1/60th of what the Minotaurs are worth.
Okay, back to Minotaurs.
Back to Minotaurs.
Continue the laps. Yeah, Astro is really... There is no mechanical complexity. There is a whole lot of, how do I use this toolkit because everything is in here?
What does this card do?
And a whole lot of, what are my cards like today?
Yeah, if it's anything like my dice in D&D, they hate me.
The Astro has on days and off days. Some days I can stack the deck no problem. Some days I draw triple suns, non-stop, and that's all I can get.
Other days deck stacks you!
Yeah.
But I do love Astro. It's a lot of fun.
It is a cool class.
I can totally understand why everybody else doesn't like Astro.
It's not that unpopular, but you don't see that many of them. Mainly because it's a lot more work to accomplish for most people's purposes, the same thing that a white mage would do. But the difference is, of course, a white mage doesn't have that much flexibility. They're just big, chunky heals all the time. They can't do tricky crap like rewinding time.
Yeah. I wonder how the those quality of life changes they got at the start of Endwalker really helped.
White mages?
For Astros.
Oh.
See how many more people came to the class after those.
Yeah, everything got worse in Endwalker for white mages.
Yeah.
They've fixed a lot of the problems now, but
you actually can get mana again.
Yeah.
Yeah, the for Astros, it made life so much easier when the star got ginormous.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest changes.
Because the star is the thing we had as a tool. I almost never used it before they made it ginormous, because it's a great tool to have, but getting a tank to stand in that stupid thing, good luck, because you had to keep both the enemy and as much of the group as you could inside the star. And that's just not easy to communicate without sitting there and writing an essay to your party beforehand.
Yeah, sit in the star.
But now, the star's so big, the tank has to try to get the stupid boss pulled out of it.
Mm-hmm. It's a 30-yard range now, isn't it? Or
there are a lot of boss arenas that are smaller than it.
Yeah, it's a 30-yard radius.
Yeah. Not diameter.
Not diameter. Radius behind you, Fern.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I don't know why Asylum isn't gigantic like that. Because Asylum, you hardly ever get to use. They might as well give it some bang for its buck.
Yeah.
I do prefer the old card system we had, though. The new card system with the single redraw just is too luck based, and while the decision making it grants you is interesting on whether you want to just play what you got or try for something better, it does make pre-stacking the deck very difficult in a dungeon if you just don't get the cards.
And then you're out of combat.
Yeah, that's dumb. I really wish they would change that.
When I first started playing Astrology, I just didn't understand what was happening at all. My abilities, I guess they just don't work sometimes.
No, a lot of your stuff, especially your cards going into your deck, requires you to play them when you're in combat. And if you're not in combat, well, them's the breaks. You just wasted your card. And you have no idea the amount of times I haven't been watching a boss's HP healing somebody, and I get a card that'll finish my stacked deck, and then I throw it right when the boss dies.
I don't know. Would it really be that bad if they let you stack it out of combat? Like, I know they don't really want to encourage that. Oh well, you got to stand around and buff ahead of time type of thinking. But
it's super top level play. What that amounts to is you got to wait for upwards at least a minute and a half for if the Astros all get their cards correct the first time, and possibly 2.5 or more minutes depending on how bad their luck is. Can you imagine the 5-minute pre-pull where the Astros just sitting there going, nope, not that one. Nope, not that one.
I mean, there are quick and dirty ways you could fix it, like an out-of-combat only skill called Stack the Deck.
Give it like
That's
an
a
8-minute
perfect name
cooldown
for
or
it. I
something.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give it some redonkulous cooldown, like 8 minutes.
So that it can't be abused for dungeon pulls.
Yeah.
And just let Astros open a boss fight with a stack deck.
I mean, it's not really very fortune telly though, but
I don't know.
They got rid of our cheaty draw. We don't have it anymore.
I don't know. A lot of fortune tellers will preload a deck before a client walks in, so they can tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah, rename the ability cold reading.
Well, we had sleeve draw before, which was if you had any of the signs in your deck of the 3 different ones you were trying to build up, it would guarantee that you would get one that you didn't have. So what you would do is you would get 2 of them, which is much easier than getting 3 different ones. Significantly easier, in fact, and then you would save sleeve draw for your last draw.
I wonder if they pulled that out for balance reasons or because it was so jank with the lore. Like it's not really doing a tarot reading if you choose the cards ahead of time.
Your class representative is Urianjo. I mean, look at that guy. He cheats.
All the time, to the point that it's a character trait.
Yeah.
Yeah. He throws his cards like Yu-Gi-Oh cards, too. How come
He
we can't do
does.
that?
Can't trust him and he talks all fancy. The jerk.
Verily, pray, let us return to the waking sands.
No. Thankfully, he's no longer in the Waking Sands for me now. At long last.
Yep. You finally finished the bottom of the quest line, so he's finally gone.
He's moved on. I think I still got a couple of things I need to go do in the Waking Sands just to completely clean it out, but there's nothing of urgency, I think. Just a couple of loose, stray quests.
Yep.
Alright.
So yeah, that's the weeks. We've tangented into complaining and talking about Final Fantasy classes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, there's no news because we are...
Well, I did see one item.
Is it about the monkeys?
No, we're not talking about monkeys now.
Okay.
Not directly anyway. So we talked about a while back, I think we talked about it on the show, I'm not 100% sure, Blizzard offering a diamond Dricthar for Hearthstone.
Oh yeah.
That does ring a bell.
We did talk about it on the show. I dumped it in the news feed.
$25 for the
Yes.
diamond framed Dricthar. They're nerfing it now.
So, I hope that's money well spent then.
Yeah, so they're coming out and they're nerfing it because I guess it was overpowered. Something like if it's the... I don't remember what it originally did, but it allowed you to clone itself depending on its cost relative to other things in your deck, I believe. But instead of that, now it allows you to clone some other minion in your deck. But since they basically made it a card that people could purchase, they're now they're not taking the card away from anybody, but they're refunding everybody who got it 3,000 gold, which is fine for the people who bought the card for 3,000 gold. But the people who spent money on it still just get 3,000 gold. So it's like funny money. That Blizzard is refunding them funny money, which is not even Blizzard funny money, it's Hearthstone funny money. So it's funny money's funny money.
It's the funniest money.
The money is so funny, you don't even know. But yeah, so there are a lot of people, I presume, who are quite mad at this point because they spent $25 like an idiot on Diamond Dricthar.
I mean,
and now they're not going to be able to field it all the time because it's not OP anymore.
I mean, it's the monkeys again. You at this point, we can't be sympathetic. You kind of brought this on yourself.
Yeah, you did this to yourself. You gave Blizzard $25 for a diamond frame on a Dricthar card.
Yeah, granted, it took a lot longer than expected, but it was going to happen.
Well, I really, 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 really hope that Blizzard aren't so evil that this was a cynical move. That they deliberately released a card that needed to be nerfed for purchase for real money. And then nerfed it after the fact once they felt they'd got enough enough sales.
I would totally believe they did that because the card would have to be busted enough for people to want to buy it and actively use it in their decks to justify a brand new card getting that kind of treatment.
But Ari, the marketing guff said that people would buy it for Horde Pride.
Oh, right,
they can say whatever it wants.
So yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a week gone by without Blizzard doing a dumb. I mean, they're still getting flack for the let's just call it the eugenics chart.
So if you buy with real money regular card packs, how much do you get for $25 versus how much you would get for like 3,000 gold? Like, what is the value scale there?
I do not
tell you
remember.
anymore.
Yeah, back when I was playing, I knew it, but so many games use microtransaction currency now that I just don't remember the scale for all the different games I've played.
Yeah. Needless to say, buying one card for $25 in a virtual card game, as opposed to just buying expansion booster packs.
And from all accounts, Shadowverse is just the better game.
With the worst anime.
I still love Shadowverse. And Shadowverse has a story that you actually will get invested in?
Yeah, the Hearthstone story is basically, let's play cards.
Yeah, like I don't like. I've been tempted to try Shadowverse, but the reality is that I'm absolutely cabbage at card games. But that wouldn't stop me wasting a huge amount of time thinking about it, and likewise. I don't really want that additional burden on my brain.
Yeah, it's especially noticeable in Shadowverse because there's all the different classes have within them about 3 different sub archetypes you can build into for any given rotation set.
Mm-hmm. And they're adding more all the time.
Yeah, if you play unlimited, it just expands forever.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's about 3 per that rotate, and it's a lot of card game mechanics. But if you're into that kind of thing, Shadowverse is great. You
Yeah.
do all kinds of options for deck building.
Just don't watch the anime.
Yeah, just don't watch the anime. Read the story instead.
Why did they choose that for the anime though?
They had such a good story in the game to adapt. Yeah, the first chapter or two is a little shaky while they were finding their feet, but it gets really good.
No, they had to make Yu-Gi-Oh! For Grandma.
Why choose the Yu-Gi-Oh knockoff of all strategies you can choose?
I just want to see cowboys fight mythological monsters in a Wild West style Dust Bowl.
Yeah, I do want to watch that too because that would be awesome.
And it was awesome.
But
and the cut-ins and the little anime scenes from it are so cool, but they just didn't animate it. Like, that's a winner, my dudes.
There's a winner. But no, we got the power of friendships in the hearts of the cards.
There seems to be a thing though, right? Like, did either of you watch the first PSO2 anime? Because it's the same thing, basically, right? It's the same line of thinking.
I'm going to say no for the sake of my sanity. And so I don't dredge up bad memories. But yeah, I get what you're meaning. It's just why.
It's like, oh no, we can't make an actual credible standalone product. We actually have to just make an advert.
Yeah. Instead of an anime, or put our story to an anime that could stand up on its own. Although there have been other takes, like I forget what it was actually called. It was another gacha one, but they spent the entire anime just taking the piss out of gacha mechanics. I forget what it was called now, though.
I remember the one that you're talking about. I just don't remember what it was called.
Yeah. It didn't take anything even remotely seriously, and I think
Yeah,
that's another
It was a very silly show. It was actually quite entertaining.
It was very entertaining.
You could tell that it just didn't care.
Yeah. If you bought excessive amounts of money, then you were a scum.
Man, now I'm thinking of Shadowverse, and I'm thinking of the Reveal expansion, and how we had cowboy elves for the forest deck, and how they would summon motorbike tokens.
Cowboy elves on motorbikes. I love it. Oops. Hello.
Maybe
Motorcycles on card games?
Yes.
Yeah, the Loxus the Homesteader was just this elf with a cowboy aesthetic. It was legendary for the set, and he would just summon motorbike tokens, and every time you played a token, you got points back. So if you were able to generate more motorbike tokens, he would keep giving you play points back, and he would generate more motorbike tokens. And every time you... Yeah, and the motorbikes were really good, because they disappeared whenever you played a monster, but it gave it 2 attack.
But it put the monster on the motorbike.
Yeah, put the monster on the motorbike and lets it instantly attack that turn.
Everything on motorbikes. I love it.
Yeah, you had a winner, guys. Come on.
They have like infinity dollars. Why couldn't they have just made that?
There's probably someone in marketing said, "Oh, we gotta sell the game."
The Pinecone anime is great. I like it a lot.
The Pinecone anime is confusing and terrifying.
I think it's fun. It's both funny and fun.
Oh yeah, it is. It is also very confusing, and I have no idea what's going on.
It has a Yuri streak a mile wide, but...
Well, yes. Alright, just trying to think, is there actually anything else newsy we could talk about? But I don't think there is, because we are in the pre-E3 doldrums.
Yeah, it's mostly about how people's apes are gone. I guess they released Project Diva on PC.
That took them long enough.
I could probably bring myself to buy it a third time. I do like me some Project Diva, even if I'm bad at it. I do love it.
Yeah. There have been previews actually being put out from Monster Hunter Sunbreak too, for the weapon.
Yeah, the weapons. There's a lot of people who are very dubious about it because they feel like the weapon skill sets are getting expanded to the point that they're occluding each other.
Yeah, they are a bit. Like I looked at Hunting Horn and I looked at Hammer, and Essentially, they took one mechanic from each and swapped them.
Yeah, see, if you look at what Greatsword got, because Greatsword is what I'm most interested in at all times, and they haven't taken anything away, of course. You can play Greatsword whether you want to play it the World style, you can do that. If you want to play it Rise style, you can do that. But the new styles I've added in Sunbreak are one that just makes your combo faster, effectively. It's like a new version of the combo, which is just quicker, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. So you can have a more nimble style of Greatsword gameplay, and the other one is a counter.
Yeah.
Longsword style. Like, well, really? I mean, these are options. I know they're just options, and it's not like the counter is exactly the same. The counter is basically, it's like the supreme form of super armor, so that you, rather than actually immediately striking back, it just preserves wherever you were in your combo and it prevents you from being in any way impeded by the incoming attack. Like, you can no-sell the attack and keep doing what you're doing if you counter in time. Which is not a full counter the way you would get with Longsword, where countering is a mechanism of enabling your best attacks. But it's still, like, this is not really part of core to what Greatsword is, and they already gave Greatsword a ton of super armor in the Rise skill set. So I don't know why they're pushing further down that line. I know that it's sort of like the Rise is like the 0.5 entry, right? In the weird TikTok that Monster Hunter does, where they do a big game and then they do a weird offshoot, and then they do a big game and they do a weird offshoot. I know it's the weird offshoot where they like to do a lot of experimental stuff, but yeah, I'm a bit dubious about the expansions to the definition of what it means to be a greatsword in this way.
Yeah. Like, they did a lot of this with Generations, and then come World, they pulled a lot of that back, so it might not be here to stay.
It's a lot of, what's a good way to describe it? With, I had a thought and I dropped it. Dang it!
Main part.
Yeah, it's like, like, didn't Frontier also do like a bunch of weird stuff as well?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, like, I know that they like to do weird stuff sometimes, but it feels like it feels a little bit like this is a dilution of the very strong core identities that weapons previously had. But then again, a lot of it is just like rule of cool stuff, right? Like the heavy bowgun stuff is really cool. Like that's like core heavy bowgun fantasy type stuff. Like, it's just watching the new abilities it would get made me want to try taking it up again, because it's just like they really play into that fantasy really well. And some of the others are more sort of quality of life, like bow is getting much more severing power in their new skill set. Yeah, because the number of times that I ended up cutting a fight really close in World because I was trying to get that perfect Dragon Piercer down the tail to cut it off, is like, that's not... I don't want that in my life anymore. That was the main reason that I stopped maining bow, was because too much of the time I would get carted dicking about trying to get the tail off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. Even though these are all options, we're going to have to fight our gamer brain if one of them turns out for our particular weapon to just be really OP. And I hate having to fight my gamer brain.
I don't really have so much of that problem as some people. That's why I've been such a staunch greatsword purist for so long, is because I don't really care what they want to do with it. I just want to hit things. The only compromise on that I've made is that I'm willing to use the switch skill, which allows you to sacrifice damage to recalibrate the direction of your final strike on greatsword, because greatsword is no fun if you never land your final strike in the combo, which is often the case in World. Like, there are lots of fights where, like, even though I could beat the tar out of Veiled Valhazak really quickly by the time I was done with him, it was still a situation where I would land very, very few true charge slashes in that fight.
And it's very frustrating when you've lined up a nice swing and the monster moves, so you whiff your attack by a couple of degrees.
Yeah, it's just there are things that I think are valuable quality of life, and I don't mind that one. But I also don't really see the point in, oh well, this is great sword, but the combo comes out quicker for less damage. It's like, if I wanted the combo to come out quicker for less damage, I could play longsword, or sword and shield, or dual blades, or any number of other weapons purpose designed to play into a different play style. And I know that this is a fine calibration. It's not going to make it into one of those other weapons. I understand that. But the reason people play greatsword is for the weight, the heft, the girth.
Ugh.
It's not about oh well, I want the player style to be slightly more pliable for the extra performance.
Yeah.
I don't think people speedrun bosses with great swords.
Well, aside from Team Darkside, but those people are crazy. What I have found actually a little bit satisfying is they haven't announced, at least not yet, any new features for the wire bug. Aside from the how they tie into those attacks.
Yeah, but that could just be a yet, to be honest.
It could just be a yet, but hopefully I think hopefully they restrain themselves.
I'm glad that when the talk is over and we go back to the tick, wire bugs will just be gone. They're not going to bring them forward. There's no way.
At least not in their current form.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, because wire bugs are supposed to be a regional specialty, effectively.
Yeah. But like, I like the idea of using the grappling hook to get around the map. That's great. But yeah, I think they went too far.
You could already do that with the. They could already do that with the slinger though, and the slinger was much better.
Except they forgot half the time.
Yeah, conceptually, I feel like the slinger was a better thing. You know, I like clutch claw aside because I don't like the clutch claw. I think that the slinger was a good addition. I think that the different types of environmental ammunition that you could find was a great way of making it feel like you were using the world to help you fight, much more so than Endemic Life. I don't really like Endemic Life. They're just like, platformer power-ups that you pick up and do stuff with.
Yeah, I don't think we need the little burbs anymore. We could do without those.
Yeah. Buff birds also, they're also terrible. Like, they're just a way to force you to take a certain route through a level to where, before you get to the boss, to the monster you're trying to hunt. They don't serve any a purpose to enhance gameplay at all. It's just not. I think that they're not a good idea. The perma buffers, those buffers are just not a good idea.
Yeah.
But all that stuff, there's just all those little experiments, right? Tinkering with different ways of doing things, and most of them have been to one degree or another unpopular. And I think that it's going to be quite obvious to Capcom at this point that wire bugs in particular have corroded the gameplay. If you look at anybody who spends a lot of time playing Rise, they never touch the ground. Except when they're fighting a monster, they never touch the ground. They literally just fly across the level, because if you've set up your stamina correctly, you can do that.
Yeah.
They don't even bring a Palamute ever. They always bring two Palicos because they know that they can just fly across the level using wire bugs.
Yep. So yeah, I think wire bugs to that degree can back off a bit. Like keep a grappling hook as well as a means of getting around the level. Absolutely.
I think that they should be used very sparingly and only as level shortcuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that you should be able. You should never be able to use them in a vacuum.
Oh, I missed one. Yeah. The full free running parkour just does not feel Monster Hunter.
No, I had my reservations even about the Palamute and its effect on the size of levels, but the wire bug has been much, much worse because I didn't realise how free it would be. I initially thought that the wire bug would be on like a minute cooldown, but it ain't. It ain't at all.
Yeah, the Palamute I don't mind so much, but maybe slow it down a little bit and maybe get rid of doggo drifting.
The thing is, my problem with the Palamute is similar to the problem with the wire bug, but on a lesser scale, in that at a certain point it becomes mandatory.
Yep.
Like, if you had the Palamute in World, everybody would use it all the time. Like, because it just makes you move faster. And at that point, you just suddenly don't have as much of an option. You've just got to have your Palamute with you.
Yeah, instead you had the same way. The ride system, which was summon a lizard on a rail, basically.
Yeah, and I think that was I didn't like it. I felt like it also shrunk the map and took out a lot of gameplay, a lot of the feeling of stalking a monster through a forest, the way you used to get in early World. Like I thought that was just generally a bad thing as well. And I think that dismounts should be out. Like I think generally, monster hunters should hunt the monsters on foot That should just be the way you do it. Because that's what made those levels feel so incredible. Like the Ancient Forest, even just the first one, like that you could explore that for hours and not know it well.
To be fair, with the Ancient Forest specifically, if a monster is in the tree, anywhere at the top of the tree, the little monsters get confused.
Oh yeah, they're hopeless getting up there.
Yeah, they'll change their mind several times in their attempts to try and get you to your location.
So like a good 60% of that level is inaccessible to the little monsters.
But the
bigger
level, that level design, I think, should come first because that's what makes World good. More than anything else, I think it's the environments of World really sell the fantasy in a way that none of the other Monster Hunter games quite manage.
Yeah, do more of that, I think. Keep the Palamute, but don't make them a mount necessarily. I like having them there as an option.
Yeah, I like the doggo.
Yeah, and the fact
I
that
like having the doggo around.
the fact that it fills a niche that the Palamute, Palico had never really covered too well. Because the Palicos have always been very support heavy.
Yeah, I don't mind having like the idea of Palico for like technical support, and for the Palamute, it's like, I just need a little bit of extra DPS.
Or maybe a different damage type so you can break something.
Just please do not do the stupid Grimalka tribe reputation crap again.
Yeah, no, let's not do that again.
Well, that's another one of those things that is sort of a regional specialty. I don't think that it'll follow. But and they didn't do it there's no analog and Rise, is there? So
no.
They don't consider it a universal feature. But yeah, I feel like the environment design was the thing which really sold World and made it really credible and made it really enchanting to a lot of people. And the more ways that you add to subvert that environmental design, by speeding your way through the levels, by taking you directly to where you want to go, by shortcutting across things that should have been obstacles, you're just eroding your own advantages.
Yeah. So yeah, we got good and bad out of both World and Rise. We got a lot of good out of World. Rise, I like it just because it's a bit more of a sillier entry, but that's because World was very.
There are a lot of things
serious.
I like about Rise's aesthetic and so on, and there are certain features in the levels that I like. Overall, I don't really feel like it's a very strong game, especially when you put it up against the likes of World, but I'm very interested to see what sorts of lessons that they learn and apply to Sunbreak.
As long as we don't have to do...
Yeah, following on what they learn and apply to Gen 6.
Yeah. As long as we don't have to do the sieges anymore.
Yeah, let's get rid of those, please.
Yeah, I think that if the Rampages return, they will be in a very different form for Sunbreak. It will be something different, I think. Maybe it might be superficially similar, but they won't execute it the same way.
Yeah, because the sieges went over, well, badly, very badly.
Yeah, there's not a lot to commend them. I think that it's sort of like a half-baked idea that needed more time in the oven.
Yeah. So I think we're actually kind of getting to a point where, like, a lot of the ideas to make maybe the perfect Monster Hunter game have been done now in the various incarnations. It's just a matter of putting them together in the right way.
So what is usually the cycling time between one generation and the next?
A few years at the very least. World, I think, really kind of threw the whole thing off because
it was a paradigm shift.
Yeah, and World
not just in terms of their technology, but also in terms of who plays the game, who they're serving.
Mm-hmm. And it had a much bigger development time than any Monster Hunter game to date.
Well, it sure did pay off. So.
Oh yes, it did. When they had that, they had 4, and then they had Generations, and Generations was kind of a love letter to old school Monster Hunter. So we're not going to, hopefully anyway, see that big a gap anymore. But we'll see how Sunbreak goes over, and maybe we'll find out maybe 6 months down the line about the next game.
Yep, Sunbreak's only a month away, right?
Yeah. Which reminds me, I need to get in and get my pre-orders all set up, and then dust off the Monster Hunter skills.
Yeah, hopefully what I picked up replaying through the bits of World I did will stick with me when we go back to Rise.
Yeah, you're better off playing a little bit of Rise at least.
Yeah.
Because World
Well,
is.
I'm sure there's some event quests and stuff that we just didn't do that are laying around for us to poke at to reacquaint ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. All right.
So yeah, what level are you now, Fern?
61.
Almost 62?
62 after this Minotaur.
Cool, that's a good stopping point then.
That is a good stopping point. And that's also probably a good stopping point for the show.
Yep. So, hope you've enjoyed dancing with Minotaurs.
Dancing with Fish.
Yep, fish were involved in the dance, but yes, dancing with Minotaurs. Here on YouTube.com. Only the best quality content from No Excuses.
Run around in circles, throw fish at Minotaurs. I love it.
Yep. So, closing comments, I guess.
Well, hopefully we actually get some game news in the next week or so, because, I think we've got... let me check my calendar. Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing the beginnings of the E3 cesspool next week.
Yeah, it'll be through the first half of June when they start.
Yeah, I think the 7th is the day that the original was supposed to be, the actual E3, even though there's no actual E3 this year.
The other alternative is companies are just so inept right now because the coup broke them that they just don't have anything to announce.
There's also been a large number of very high-profile flops, too, which has been fun. Looking at you, Babylon's Fall. So, yeah. Hopefully we'll actually get something interesting next week. If not, the week after.
Yep. Hopefully I will have a week to talk about that isn't just me iterating my daily little routines.
Yeah, we'll see. Alright. What about you, Vol?
All the apes gone, my sides are in orbit.
Alright, folks. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.